It is feature time in Tulsa. Let's go green.
He's got the run, but isn't enough. It's a drag race to the finish. Colbert goes from third to first in the last quarter.
Experience the world's most legendary racing events with iRacing. iRacing special events allow any member to compete in full-length multiplayer races based on some of the biggest events in motorsports all year round. Compete in virtual endurance races such as the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, and the Nürburgring 24 Hours. Take on some of the toughest races on the NASCAR calendar, such as the Daytona 500 and the Coke 600. We have races from disciplines across the racing world, from the Indy 500 to the Chili Bowl, from the Bathurst 1000 to the Crandon Championship. Our endurance special events utilize iRacing's team feature, where members can sign up and race together on their own team, swapping drivers throughout the race. Other events use iRacing Super Sessions, where you're not only racing against those on track, but against everyone taking part. As every race progresses, watch and feel the track change, with progressive time of day, dynamic weather and rain, and dynamic track debris and surface changes. Take on your favorite discipline or try a brand new racing challenge with our biggest races of the year, the iRacing Special Events. Learn more at iracing.com/special-events.
Live from iRacing's virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to the 2025 iRacing Brickyard 400. Tonight, some of iRacing's best will do battle for 160 laps here at the world-famous racing capital of the world, and we're happy that you're joining us for a special Friday Crown Jewel edition of iRacing special events here with RaceSpot TV on the iRacing Esports Network. Our producer is Hugo Luis, and with Derek Watson, my name is Evan Pasoko. Happy that you're joining us as we are ready for a long endurance NASCAR challenge here at the Brickyard. And this is not our first sampling of this special event, Derek. We've already seen the open race occur 2 times already this week. We take a look, though, this is the third of the full-length NASCAR races that make an appearance on this special events calendar, part of the larger 36-week-long full-season NASCAR iRacing series.
Yeah, and look at this calendar first off. Look how busy July alone has been. We started off with the Firecracker 400, myself and Justin Prince in the call at the beginning of the month. We did Spa 24, now the Brickyard. And next month, not any slower, the Knoxville Nationals, the Portimao 1000, the Crandon Championship leads into more races after that. There's the race for the Cure somewhere in the middle of this. So lots going on, Evan. But right now, we're back home again in Indiana. We were here earlier back in May for the Indy 500. Kenneth Bueno, Joe Peak led us through some amazing broadcasts, but now you and I get to sit here and call the stock car version all night long.
It is going to be a great challenge. Of course, more stock car action later this year in the likes of the Bristol Night Race. And of course, on the circle track side of things, the Winter Derby, the Chili Bowl, and many more to come later this year. But for the big cars, this is one of the biggest. We've seen the Daytona 500, we've seen the Coke 600, and again, the trip around the country on these Crown Jewel events continues with none other than here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Qualifying has already wrapped up as we are ready to bring you the top split of tonight's race. Let's go trackside, take a look at your iRacing starting grid. Well, Sean Conklin's already kissed the bricks so far this week. He's looking for another one. The number 1 ranked driver in the field will start from P1, and to bring us to the green flag, he'll be lined up next to Daniel Nanny in P2. Behind them, Derek Heitman will start from the number 3 position. He's next to Joseph Galata, who will start from 4th. And back on row 3, it is Andrew Dyson starting 5th, and Richard Garcia through your top 6.
Moving back into P7, Dallas Pataska back there. The number four car is next to Evan Say. And then at P9 is Ian Culp next to Lars Chenoweth from Palestine. And then Jaden Hopp is in the 13 car in P11. He's next to Paul Hill in the 9.
Lucky number 13 tonight goes to Justin Anke. He's going to be alongside Junsa Lim, who starts in 14th. Charles Wimbley is number 15 on the grid. He'll be joined by James Fitzpatrick on the outside row, number 8 in P16. Behind them, Brandon 6 will roll from 17th with Tanner Love in P18.
Back to P19, John Schwartz next to Landon Moody back there in P20 in that 33 car. P21 goes to the 24, Zach Range next to Gabriel Pellegrino from Brazil. And then Keegan Flickenstein is back there in 23rd. He's next to Justin Levine, part of One Sim.
Levine going to be the first driver gridded based on provisionals. So the rest of these drivers do not take a time at qualifying. You'll notice they are seeded based on rank in this one. So Jared Borborema, 25th, with Brad Newman starting P26. Megan McGuire's 27th. Keegan Sabillo is 28th position, with Sean Anderson 29th and Matt Cox through P30.
P31 brings you Daniel Wiles in that bright green machine next to Thomas Freeman. P33 brings you Chad Gunningsman, and the number 29, the Ohio native, is next to Joseph Cozy in the 30 car. 35 is Vinicius Burin from Brazil, and he's next to Diego Morales in P36.
And that is a look top to bottom at your starting grid here tonight from Indianapolis as the field gets set for one pace lap, and then we are ready to go at it. Let's talk about what's on deck for tonight's race around this legendary cathedral of motorsports. 160 laps on deck around this 2.5 mile, what is classified as a rectangular oval, will get us to tonight's full race distance of 400 miles. And if some of the other open and fixed split races, Derek, earlier in the week have been any indication, these races have had their fair degree of attrition. That is nothing new when we look at these full-length NASCAR races on the NIS calendar.
Yeah, attrition does seem to always be on the discussion board when we come to these races. So hopefully for a good, clean run tonight, what we'll see out of these cars. Remember, these are open setups, so drivers have had all week to try to get it dialed in and get the car just how they want it, either loose or tight or somewhere in the middle, and do what they want. But here we are through turns 3 and 4 for what feels like, Evan, a very slow pace lap. It's really not. It's a decent speed, but with how big this track is, it feels like it takes forever.
It really does. And for some of the other races, the likes of the Daytona 500, the Coke 600, some of those races, much quicker average speed. The way this unique racetrack is formulated with its 4 corners banked at just 9.2 degrees means that we are in for a long one, and we're happy that you're spending your Friday evening with us. Kick up your feet, tune in, and enjoy. Pace car down to the safety of pit road. Sean Conklin in control of the field. 400 miles on deck. This is the Brickyard 400. First lap caution before they come back to the bricks. Trouble off at turn number 4. Whoa. Ian Culp is one of the drivers involved in early trouble in this long night of racing. It all happened off of turn number 4, Derek. That wasn't the only moments that we saw in those opening 2.5 miles. There was already cars splitting 2-3 wide into one for the first time. We saw some of that as well on the back straightaway, and then somewhere in the middle of the field, just at the tail end of the top 10, it all went wrong.
What's that word you used? Attrition is on the board. Well, this is going to be our first test of it right now. You saw some cars get some major damage here, either by hitting each other or hitting the inside wall. So we'll see already which cars may be done or out or in what status they are here to work our caution on lap 2. And and you're right, there was multiple points of contact, but that 1 out of 4, that looked nasty.
Let's see what happened as they came off the corner, and right there is where the contact happens. The driver sideways was Ian Culp. He had contact with the number 9 of Paul Hill, and you can see several drivers diving to pit road to avoid the accident. They are currently being shown black flag penalties, though. Without live race control, they may be forced to serve those. And that's a good decision to head to pit road. With that pit road wall there, the jettison, there is not a lot of space for other drivers to get through. Hill got some damage in that one. Obviously, Brandon Six, the other driver involved. And when all you see is smoke, it may be the lesser of two evils, is to take the unsafe pit entry penalty instead of daring to try to go diving through the smoke.
Yeah, maybe even a speeding penalty as well, depending on how you get up there. But that's okay. As you said, that's the lesser of two evils. At least you still have a race car to go. And we'll see how many cars may be out. Lots of cars down pit road here, trying to get some damage fixed and kind of regroup here. Well, 1 lap in, and I think everyone kind of got their first taste of Indy this season or this year in this car at this track. And we'll see if we can have a better run at it. But some good moments there in that first run, some good setting up of moves. And although the front two, Sean Conklin and Daniel Haney, stayed the same, some moves up and down the field already in that first lap, Evan.
Yeah, a lot of movement. A couple of spots here, a couple of spots there. More positions will continue to be swapped because look at all the yellow on the scoring tower left of your screen. Plenty of drivers forced to pit road for either service or strategy, and a decision to come down pit road early in this one. There was a lot of cars involved in that accident, but there was not, call it 20, and that's the amount of cars who came in. So makes you wonder. I know an early caution flag, not normally an indicator that a race is going to stretch itself out green, but if that many cars want to get fuel this early, and again, the vast majority of them just took a splash of fuel and continued on, they must have some sort of fuel strategy in mind to where if this race goes green, they feel like whatever number that is may not be plausible if you've got to do 160 laps on fuel. And you're going to split that up, of course, according to how many stops you want, but maybe doable if the number's 157, 156. So I think those gears already turning amongst the drivers in the back half of the field.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I think that's probably the right call. And some people just want to sit in the back of the field here and maybe be comfortable. Well, let's do this. Under our first caution, we're going to step aside for just a moment. We'll be back in time for the green flag here on the iRacing Esports Network. Myself, Evan Basoko. We'll be back in just a moment.
And back live at Indianapolis, early caution flag will fall to the wayside. Sean Conklin, Daniel Naney, side by side on the front row. Green flag back in the air. Let's try this again. 4 laps down at Indy, and back underway through the gears we go to turn number 1. Conklin pulls at advantage, and Joseph Galata on the inside slides up and in front of him.
Down here through the corners we're going to go. You see mostly drivers wanting to get single file through these corners, just sort of similar to the IndyCar version. You don't really want to be too wide through those corners, but look at people making moves in the back, lining up those big runs. The draft will be the conversation all night long. Now down in the turn number 3. Here comes Conklin. Gets down just below that white line. That's a scary area right there, Evan. You want to be below that white line, but obviously not too far below that white line.
You got to be careful. This racetrack, of course, not originally designed for stock cars, although been racing here now for the 400 for nearly 30 years. Some 2-3 wide in the tail end. Up front, your leaders single file for 1, 2, and 3. Battle for 4. Thought it was going to be a move from Richard Garcia. He did not end up making a dive in that 11 car, so he'll stay in line to fit. That's the thing, is you really don't want to make an attack late into a corner. You really want to have established positioning, and now it looks like he's going to try again as they head down the back straightaway. Garcia down to the inside of the Ada Heitman, and he's going to have some drivers try to follow through. That's Evan C. Dallas Pataska in line behind. Give credit to that 8, though. Derek Heitman will not roll over. They stay side by side in a battle for P5.
Yeah, great battle for P5. Just to wrap up the end of the story from that last caution, that car you saw swinging down pit road last time by was John Schwartz. He did, unfortunately, pick up a penalty. He had to serve under green for the speeding and the unsafe pit exit, or pit entrance, pardon me. But that has been served. He's now good, so he'll be hoping probably for the caution here soon, so he doesn't lose that lap. But up front, here it is: 1, 2, 3, 4 cars before you find your first 2 wide battles. The same one we saw a second ago. And I'm impressed by this. Oh my gosh, this green car on the outside, Evan. How well he was holding his own in that corner, and then that happens.
Yeah, it can happen quick, and it's funny, right? Long race, you expect there's going to be moments, they will come and go. There's going to be good runs, bad runs, scary moments, and maybe the occasional moment to take a deep breath. But these next-gen cars, we've been saying it for years since we got them, cannot ride on that edge like maybe a Gen 6 could. It's a pretty clearly defined line between being under control and out of control. And of course, you get down to the apron part of the racetrack in the corners, the car's going to get really loose. These tires are wider, but they don't have that same sidewall to lean on and catch the race car like you've been able to do in some past generations of these stock cars. But at least we've got some legs underneath us now as things slowly starting to separate at the front of the field. An impressive 0.6 of a second advantage for Conklin as the race leader. Still watching this group around P5 continue to do battle as you jump on aboard there with the number 4. That's Dallas Pataska, up a spot from where he started in P7.
Yeah, Dallas doing a great job up here right now. So it's in P6 on the broadcast graphic, having a good run here, just kind of staying in line. And this will kind of be the view, I think, for most of the night, Evan, because what you have to do in these stock cars, maybe not unlike other cars at this track, is build the run. Right, Pataska needs to get back here, sit comfortable, kind of build that draft, maybe dig in a little deep in the corner just like he does, maybe make up some time. But unlike other tracks we go to for special events or for other styles of racing, you're not going to see a lot of time just kind of made up. You know, just, I don't want to use the word randomly, but, you know, like we go to a Charlotte, you go to Texas, you just kind of gain time. Here, you're going to work at it. You're going to use that draft, you're going to use that run, and really make something happen all night long at Indy.
Justin Levine, good look there at the driver who was ranked at number 3 in this race. Started 24th all the way up now into the number 10 position. So it's a bit of a deceptive 14 positions gained for Justin. He did his job by avoiding the accident on the opening lap of this race. But the kind of flip side of that conversation is, again, remember, half the field, if not a little bit more, decided to come down pit road under that yellow. He did not. So he's playing a track position game early in this one, deciding not to come down pit road and pit early, instead feeling like he values the track position. That was one of the conversations we had just on Tuesday night here on the iRacing Esports Network when the stars of the NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series were here in a race that had 100 less laps than this one, Derek, and that was they felt that this was the most important race on the calendar for qualifying they would have all season long. So as we see Matt Cox and Paul Hill do battle, and it's going to be trouble. Cox gets into him and into the outside wall goes the 7. It was
No caution.
JR Borborema. That car stays straight. There's no caution. We stay green. So a big scare there for JR, who had already lost a spot to Paul Hill earlier in the lap. And now that Brazilian's got a damaged number 7.
Wow. I mean, he just really got in the back of him and it just never lifted. It felt like this kind of kept driving right on through and turned that car sideways and up around he went. Luckily for everyone involved, no caution. We're going to say green flag racing. Well, maybe not luckily for this car. This red car wants a caution really bad. He wants to get down there and see how bad the damage is, because here's the truth. At Indianapolis, you're going to know pretty quickly, Evan, how bad your car is damaged, whether it be aerodynamics, whether it be you've lost some top speed, whether it be you've just worn out those tires from spinning around like that. Other tracks, again, maybe you keep it a secret for a bit, but how big, how wide, how long this track is, he'll know pretty quickly how off that car is, if it's off at all.
Yeah, tough break for that machine. JR was somebody else who was kind of cycled out based on where they were running through the opening pit cycle. And unfortunately for him, it's going to put him on the back foot, which, well, interrupted by point kind of ties into that, right? The importance of drivers do not feel like this is a race where you can run around 25th all day and win it. Now, in a longer race like this, I think there's more opportunities as somebody else smacks the wall just in front of Chad Gugensman there. I think that was Sean Anderson who got the fence off of turn number 2. But drivers really feel like if you want to be in the conversation, you have to be a top 10 car throughout. And there's opportunities once you're towards the front, but I think that plays into somebody like a Justin Levine who wanted to forego the early pit stop. Let's take a second look at what happened to the 7 of Borborema.
Is it maybe a disagreement on clear or not clear, and just got up under him, got in the back quarter panel, and up around he went. I'm still impressed he kept a hold of that car and kept us green flag racing. That's a moment that I was positive we were going to use the word caution any second and have that come out here, but that is not the case, and we keep racing here down this long straight again. So Evan, already we're 13 laps in, so we've done nearly 30 miles already at this track. And when you're a driver, this is an endurance race. I know we don't typically use that comment on the oval side. Typically we reserve that for your Spa 24, your NERB 24, maybe your Daytona 24s, but this is an endurance race as a driver, and the difference is there's no one here to relieve you. You have to find a way to get locked in here, to get comfortable in your seat, to get locked in and focused, whether it be maybe you're Twitch streaming to your family, friends, fans, what have you, whether it's hanging out with your friends in Discord, listening to music, or just sitting in silence. This is a long race, and it's going to feel very, very long inside these cars.
Yeah, and despite that, you would think the drivers would, take it easy, especially if it looks like this is going to be a longer green flag run. But that shot there through the short chute showed you, they're right up on the fence every single lap. It feels like lap after lap after lap. You're looking at qualifying laps, which is how aggressive drivers have to be in these next gens. These are the open setups, as you mentioned, as Paul Hill gives us a good look at the back bumper of the 30. Joseph Cozy up at the front of him. But, even though it is open setups and these drivers can bring their best setups from whatever performance team they belong to, or if it's something they've worked on with their buddies, there is some differentiating from car to car, unlike in a fixed setup race. But even with that, it is much more difficult to differentiate in these next-gen cars, so things are going to be pretty tight. We did see somebody dive off to pit road from Paul Hill's onboard there. Dallas Pataska, interestingly enough, decided to come down pit road that time into number 4. You see him going down now. That's an interesting decision for me. Dallas was scored into number 6 position at the time, so immediately you have to wonder if it's some sort of an issue outside of the sim or with his computer. But right now, what I'm seeing in the pit box is scheduled service, right side tires out and away. So that is certainly an interesting call for Dallas Pataska, only 15 laps into a run.
Yeah, I'm with you. There's got to be something more to that, some kind of out of sim issue. Maybe, whatever it have be, headphones weren't working, wheel felt weird, had to close your door. I don't know what it had to be, but yeah, why not take advantage of the pit stop there and hope it works out? But that's way off cycle compared to what we expect here in this race tonight. So, and we'll see if we can get a word on that, or maybe it'll kind of become more clear later. But yeah, that was a head scratcher.
Wonder if it's the kind of galaxy brain move for Dallas, right? Does he really feel like this race is going to go green?
Yeah.
And, will it stretch out? And if he feels like that's the case, is he totally playing the reverse strategy on the pit stops and, making the first pit early because he has a number that he is going to hit from this point on to the very end. We will see, but of course, he does stay on the lead lap. That's a big, important thing because obviously most racetracks, what scares people away from doing the early pit stop is the fact that they would go a lap down. If a caution flag would have come out, they would be stuck out. Of course, this Indianapolis Motor Speedway is so big. Your race leader, Sean Conklin, fastest car on track, still running 52.2-second lap time. So even for a long pit road here at IMS, it gave Pataska plenty of time to come in, get serviced, and stay on the lead lap. So that's good news for him.
Yeah, that's great news for him, right? You get to kind of stay out there and you're on a different strategy and you just kind of feel good. So now you're kind of hoping this works out. Now you're hoping it stays green for a long time if you're Dallas Pataska, and that, this eventually cycles on through and maybe your plan works out. I mean, you and I have called many races together where we both have kind of looked at each other or looked at the math and said, I don't get it. And oftentimes those people end up performing really well when all is said and done. So that could be what's going on here, but boy, look how strung out this already is. Already now working lap 18 of 160 at this track, and the gaps between the cars, this is just a massive gap here. Everyone's kind of off running their own race. And maybe another way, Evan, why you want to call this an endurance race, a comment we use in endurance racing sometimes is you're not really racing each other, you're sort of racing the track. And yeah, there's some small packs like this one right here for right around P18 to P22 or so with Daniel Wiles right in the middle of it. But for the most part, when there's those big gaps between the cars, you are racing the track. This track is tricky. This track will bite you very quickly in these corners. You have to be locked in here. You can't relax. And so maybe that's another reason to call it an endurance race, is the different mentality here of how this race works.
And Daniel Wiles, you have the onboard perspective from there in the number 20 position in a battle with James Fitzpatrick out the rear view mirror. In front of him, it's Junsa Lim in the number 6 car. And then Vinicius Burren a little bit further up the road behind the wheel of the number 31 machine. So good little battle here. It's in the high teens, but it's worth noting that because it's so far back, you're already looking at 12, 13 seconds a difference to the race leaders over the course of, we'll call it, 15 green flag laps. So it's important to note that, again, this field is going to spread itself out, and that's where the point you made comes into effect, that, yeah, you're going to be dealing with other race cars, certainly more so than you would in a road endurance race, because the dirty air is always going to be a concern, right? You always have to be on, but you kind of treat the other cars like part of the track in that driver versus track battle, and it also, discipline's a big thing. I know it is a cliche statement to this point, but you've heard it year after year after year, and it still holds true, and that is, you can't win the race on lap 1, but you can lose it. There are going to be opportunities, maybe like the contact we saw that put that 7 machine at JR Borborema in the fence, right? A couple of cars looking to go side by side on each other into a corner. Is the opportunity there? Sure. Do you force that, though, or whatever move that is, with 140 laps to go, right? 100 laps to go, 60 laps to go? You do have to have some extent of self-preservation to help yourself through this race.
Yeah, you really do. We're getting a beautiful onboard look here with James Fitzpatrick, and getting a look at these newly revamped digital dashboards. Now you're going to see him move to the bottom of the corner. A little bit of side-by-side action here. And I think it's going to be Daniel Wiles on the outside, with Joshua Lim up ahead right there. But these new digital dashes, Evan, now they're all the same across the cars. Hold on, caution's out. We'll come back to that in just a moment here. Caution number 2 on lap 21 for the Brickyard 400.
So the second caution flag early, just when we thought this thing was going to start to open itself up, and it is a big 2.5-mile rectangular oval, so we'll scan the racetrack and try to figure out what happened to cause some problems, as the one machine was, call it 10 laps ago, that did not lead to a caution flag, and now I believe the 7 machine involved in the incident that does bring out the caution flag. It is yellow flag number 2 on the day. And now I think we would likely see some more wholesale pit service, that everybody's done 20 laps. We will see, though, if anybody wants to stray from that, because you can't just take tires every single time this caution flag would be a problem in your quantity as the race goes on. But let's wind it back and take a look at JR Borborema. 7 car in the short chute, just got loose. A really weird spot for that car to get sideways, I know we were talking about that apron on the bottom. I don't think, Derek, he was too low, but
Nope.
that car just started to go around, and I have to think, is that because of some damage he sustained in the earlier incident, had that thing not handling well?
Could be. I think maybe the other possibility, which I think happened, he's got a little too happy on the throttle out of the corner. I think he got a little too happy and wasn't tracking out far enough, and that little bit of transition in that corner got him. And here at this track, with the way this track banks and everything, that right there, that's hard to do, to keep your car off the track and get it kind of checked up and rolled up. And so up on the track, he went for caution number 2. You're right, this time by, I suspect to see everybody come down pit road. Dallas Pataska, by the way, he did stay on the lead lap, so he'll be good with this caution. Tanner Love, John Schwartz on 2 cars, 1 lap down. Tanner Love will be your lucky dog here on this caution, so he'll get to go around. So John Schwartz, likely the only car left a lap down here. They all come down pit road, Evan. This has to be 4 tires and gas in my mind, right? There's no way you could talk yourself in anything different, I don't think.
You look for Conklin, for example, his last lap before the caution flag came out, 52.5. It's about 0.7 of a second off of his fastest lap. So we're not seeing huge fall off in the 20, but to your point, it's kind of just long enough in a mid-range run. All the cars that had pitted the first time, you're only looking at a 3 laps worth of separation. That's not enough of a difference on tires for them to wholesale stay out, and that is why you will see almost every car come down pit road, with the exception of Dallas Pataska. So Pataska pitted off cycle from the top 10 on his own, and there is some split decision on the pit lane. Sean Conklin, number 1 car down pit road, will be the 3rd driver off. That's because Evan Say and Joseph Galata going to go for 2 Goodyear Eagles only, and that will leapfrog them up in the running order.
However, the other story, Dallas Pataska stayed out. He is on the top of your timing and scoring board on the left side of your screen. He did not pit this time. Remember, he had that pit stop that we showed by himself a few laps ago. So he is going to continue with that off-brand strategy and stick with it. So Pataska will stay out here, and he will assume the lead in this race. Up ahead of him will be different cars trying to get their wave arounds. But boy, there's going to be some interesting stories here, some different pit strategies. How does it work out? How do the cars behave? This is what I love about this style of racing. When things get different, when it gets a little wild, a little crazy, and we get some question marks, this is the part I love.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to points in this race where we see these varying strategies. And again, those pit stop times basically do the math for you, right? If it's a sub 10, you're looking at a 2-tire stop. If you're in the 14 range, you're looking at the 4s. So not a huge amount of strategy, right? I think it's still pretty much everybody on the same call with a couple of, we'll call them B plots and C plots, but it is only going to get more diluted as the night goes on, and that's going to be the fun part, is tracking who's on what strategy, what's going to be the right call, and unless you've got a crystal ball, I can't tell you what it is, and I think that's what makes the one the most exciting. So to recap where we stand on the strategy, Dallas Pataska pitted from the top 10 on his own about 9 laps ago. Because this track is so big, he stayed on the lead lap as the last car, so when the caution came out and everybody else pitted, he assumed the number 1 position. So he has 9-lap-old right side tires only, because his pit stop was only a 2-tire decision. Then behind him, Joseph Galata, Evan Say, down pit road with everybody else under this yellow. They go for 2 tires only. That gains them track position. They sit now in 2nd and 3rd. They're not the only cars who took 2 tires, Derek. I will give a call to Paul Hill also. He'll restart back in 7th, so it gets hidden a little bit in the mix, but he'll also rock in the 2-tire decision. And then everybody else, Sean Conklin on back, with the exception of Hill, 4 tires and fuel. So 3 different strategies, and this will be the real first good look, right? Pataska, 2 tires, but they're old. Galata and Say, 2 tires, new, and then 4 everybody else. This will give us a good benchmark for the rest of the race on just how important tires really are. And you bet that the drivers, the crew chiefs, the teams, they're going to be taking note of who does well on this restart, on this next run, and this is going to have a heavy influence on strategy decisions they make later on in this race.
Yeah, I like to call those moments live science experiments, right? Because you're taking notes, you're studying, trying to get some live data. But right now, what's also happening in this field, probably look about halfway back, pick some random names, Diego Morales, James Fitzpatrick, Daniel Wiles, Justin Nanke back there. In that middle of the field, you're nervous right now because you do not know what to expect from the front. What does Two Tires do? Does it make those cars more loose? Does it create the possibility of tire spin? What does it do to these cars? How predictable will this restart be? That's the question in almost every driver's mind as we get ready for the green flag.
This restart will have 24 laps complete, still 136 laps to go here in Speedway, Indiana. Green flag back in the air. It's a good jump on the bottom for Pataska. He'll pull up in line in front of Galata. The battle is going to be for second. It's C and Galata, the two-tire calls battle behind the four.
Great runs up out of the turn one, now down into turn number two. Saw a bunch of cars again getting really close to that wall. When that wall sort of has the safer barrier inside it. Ooh, look at that big snaking effect. Pataska, Galata, Evans, C, and others went to the bottom of the track to try to break the run. Maybe it worked a little bit, but there's still 1, 2, 3, 4 in a row down into turn number 3.
Yeah, a lot of cars spreading out, and they'll have to squeeze to at least 2x2 as they get back into the corner. A couple of cars checking up. 3-wide moment. Richard Garcia loses a lot of speed. He'll go center at 3-wide. That's the number 24. Zach Range making moves on the bottom. The 17 at Keegan Savillo. 3-wide to turn number 1. Can they make it fit?
Hold on, caution. There's 2 separate wrecks. 3 separate wrecks maybe in this wreck. We saw the one car slam the wall on the outside out of turn number 1. If that was Diego Morales we saw first to go up in the wall, and up ahead of him was 1, if not 2 more wrecks in that corner, Evan. I knew in the back of my mind, I was going to say in the broadcast, 3 wide at Indy, that's not going to work. And unfortunately, it did not.
Yeah, it did not work at all, and Fitzpatrick was one of the cars that ended up in the outside wall. That was kind of the secondary or tertiary accident. I think the first one you saw would have been Diego Morales, the 36, who I think the 6 car saw 3 wide happening up the road, and he said, I don't want to be a part of that, kind of checked up or hit the brakes right as Diego was pulling in line behind him. It was a big hit for the 36 car to get into the outside wall. But that car stayed on the wall. I mean, that was not going to be a caution. And then you see 3 wide with Junsa Lim. He gets sideways. He tags the 23 of Fitzpatrick. That's the car I saw go up into the outside wall. And it's 3 drivers in the end up against the safer barrier for caution to flag number 3.
Yeah, and likely I would say 2, if not all 3 of those drivers, likely their day is done. They'll pack it up and park on the infield and maybe watch the rest of the race, or maybe just head home early, because that was some massive, massive hits here under this caution. Well, caution number 3, lap 27 this time by. I don't think there's even enough data gathered, Evan. We use that term live science experiments. What do you learn from 2 tires? What do you learn from all the moments? Watch this again. So here on the left side of your screen, you see the first wreck right there. And then you'll see some beating and banging in the middle of the corner. Car gets loose. And there is the next 2 wrecks. But I was going to say,
it looks like they end up being kind of related, right? I think if it was Lim who got sideways, I think Lim was somewhere with that initial contact. So we'll call it 3 parts of 1 wreck. But it was really messy in one, and I feel like we saw that one coming when they were, 3 wide, 2 rows deep, pitted down there?
Yeah, you can't be 3 wide in a corner at Indy. I don't believe you can make that work. But so we talked about these live science experiments, Evan, and the problem with this short caution being less than a lap as well. Look at the number of cars coming down. I am kind of caught off guard by the number of cars back there coming down pit road. That's, oh my gosh, Maggie McGuire's down there, Tanner Love is down there, Sean Anderson, John Schwartz is down there. I was going to say, I don't think the cars up front have gathered enough data on what 2 tires did for them to know if you should feel comfortable or not. So this right here has to be a fuel call, by the way. I am watching the cars, see a couple cars with their tires up, but I think mostly this has to be a fuel decision. You're now trying to hope you can maybe make a different fuel strategy, because there's no reason you pit back-to-back cautions to put tires on twice.
And we saw drivers thinking what we assume is fuel strategy all the way from the end of lap number 1 when we had a caution there and almost 20 drivers came in to get fuel. You can see a lot of those drivers making extended stays on pit road, longer than they would need to be down there for fuel only. So as the caution flags start to rack up, we may start seeing some, we'll call them extended stays for drivers trying to get service to those race cars done also, right? Damage. It looks like pretty much everybody on pit road has some degree of damage. Thomas Freeman's not bad. That's the first car rolling out of frame on the bottom hand. They're kind of rolling out in least to worst damage, right? Fitzpatrick's out, but Lim's going to be in the box for a while. Wembley's going to be in the box for a while. Same with Gabriel Pellegrino, who kind of quietly through all of that has a torn up race car as well behind the wheel of the number 19 machine. Again, the benefit is long laps here at the Brickyard. You can stay down there, and under the yellow flag, your leaders are running almost 2-second lap times under the caution flag. So it gives them a lot of opportunity to come down and get stuff fixed. The flip side is you need a lot of time to catch back up to the field, Derek. So if we're coming to the 1 to go, there is no come back down and get it fixed again. If they're watching the field, they'll leave pit road now, get out ahead of the pace car, and then try to catch back up in a lap. I think that's what Anderson and Fitzpatrick are doing. Looks like the other cars on pit road see the pace car coming, and looks like Buren has pulled out a line. Looks like they're all now running from the pace car, trying to maintain lead lap status. So all very calculated what's going on pit road.
Yeah, this pace speed of 70 miles an hour has its pros and cons, right? You said the pro is get a lot of damage fixed here. The con, if you're on the track, right? It feels, as you said, almost 2-minute lap times here. So those drivers you saw on pit road using their iRacing relative box, their F3 relative, you want to leave when there's about 3 seconds between you and the pace car. You have to start moving, and away they did. So here it is, the top 5 so far. Pataska, Galata, Say, Conklin, and Daniel Nanny, your top 5, Evan. So realistically, these top 5, and we saw Evan Say up 5 spots. We see, Galata up 2, Pataska's up 6. So despite the track that you and I talk about, there not being a lot of passing, and maybe most of this is due to pit strategy, up and down the field, there's a lot of drivers in different spots than where they started.
Yeah, these cautions, the little bit of strategy we've seen in the mix has given this race a little bit of spice on the strategy. And again, there is a long way to go. Plenty more strategy to come over the course of this race. Did want to update on Junsa Lim. That was one of the cars that did not leave the pit lane. That car currently does have a black flag penalty for required repairs. So Lim's going to be down pit road likely for several more minutes before it's even allowed to get back onto the racetrack. And then even then, if he does decide to continue in this race, anytime you're talking about meatball flags at a car that's damaged enough to get black flagged to pit road, it's probably not ever getting back to 100%. Nope. This would be a tough racetrack aerodynamically to stay competitive. We've seen people get away with stuff like that in the iRacing Daytona 500. Not sure we're going to see that same storyline here and the Brickyard. Pace car going to be off and away, though. Let's try this once more. 29 laps going to be behind us. Dallas Pataska, the control car once more. He's got old tires, but he made it work on the last restart. Can the 4 get the jump again? It's an okay start, but not a great one. Here comes Joseph Galata looking to the outside for the race lead.
What a great job that was by Galata right there. In a world where you often see the leader get the better jump in these iRacing races, Galata did the best he could, staying competitive out of turn number 2 here, side by side. A little bit difference here, but Galata gets the run on the outside, gets a little bit of push in the draft from the cars behind. They are drag racing down the back straight, Evan.
It is a high-speed drag race. The advantage right now goes to the 4 on the inside. Is Pataska going to be clear by the time they get to turn number 3? Yes, he will. So a good defense on the old tires keeps Pataska in the lead. Now, somebody else on the 2 tires has struggled a little bit. Evan Say has gotten passed by Sean Conklin. Watch out for that 1 car. He's the lead driver on 4 Fresh Eagles, and he's into a top 3 spot looking for more.
Yep, Conklin, as you said earlier, has already won one of these Brickyard 400 races this week. Wants to see if he can win 2 of them. And being that driver on 4 tires, that benefit may not pay off instantly, Evan. It may take a few more laps before the 4 tires begin to really kind of dominate the 2 tires. So for right now, Conklin might be able to sit back in line, but there's going to become a point with those 4 tires where he's able to get a bit more grip in the corners, a bit of a better run, get on the gas a little better, and he'll make up that time. So we'll see what Conklin can do back from P3. I'm excited to watch him do it.
And it's not going to happen in the blink of an eye, but it's clear Conklin's better. A little bit loose that time off of 4, and Galata with a huge block. For only being 31 laps into this race, took him all the way to the pit road wall. Conklin slices back to the outside. That's going to be the preferred spot. To make a move, he will slice in front, position gained. Galata again losing the nose of that Chevrolet. Got a little bit loose off of turn number 1. It's going to allow the number 1 car of Conklin to clear, and now he will look up to Dallas Pataska. So at least on the 10-lap 2-tire call versus the new, Pataska actually fared better, I think, than Galata and C did.
Yeah, Pataska's doing a great job back there, and part of that has to be the clean air conversation, which I think we don't maybe have enough sometimes when it comes to sim racing. It still does matter. But I'm still impressed by that move that Conklin made. I'm impressed in a different way that Galata wanted to make the block. I really thought what was going to happen, Evan, is they were both going to stay on the bottom of the track, and they were going to sort of draft together and try to make up time to the leader. But then Conklin said, no thanks, I'll just take P2. I would have probably preferred his driver to have worked with Galata, stayed in an alternate line, and left our leader without a draft and see if I could have closed that gap before I started fighting it.
Yeah, either way, they've decided that it's plan C for combat early in this race. Drivers want to be aggressive, and again, when you've had a couple of yellow flags, you have drivers who feel like, listen, I've got a good race car. I want some opportunities to make some moves. They are going to be incentivized to make those sooner rather than later. So some of the restart drama has calmed down in single file again for, we'll call it the top 8 or so, until there's a bit of a breakup from that point on. Some side-by-side down the front straightaway. That's the number 3 at Justin Levine. Looking to the inside on the 8 at Derek Heitman. It's a battle for position number 6. And you can see that 3 car has got the run through the corner. Some drivers are just going to give that spot away if somebody goes to the bottom, but so far not in this race. Plenty of drivers fighting back. The 8 is in that category. Heitman's going to hold him off for at least that set of corners.
Yeah, Levine's benefiting a little bit from the looks of that Red Bull car behind him. He's getting a little bit of draft at times and staying competitive. But this New York native and Justin Levine, a veteran of the iRacing service, is well known to many iRacing fans for his work in his car, his work at running some teams, including One Sim, being competitive up and down the levels of iRacing at different times. So Levine's always a fan favorite, a very active driver on the service. It's not hard to find a race somewhere that Justin Levine is in day by day on the service.
We talk about familiar names, and we see a lot of these guys in these top split iRacing special events, of course, the NASCAR iRacing series, and so on and so forth. So a lot of familiar names. You talk about FNC, somebody else who's competed at the World Championship level here on iRacing when it comes to the off-road dirt late models and others. So a lot of drivers with a varying degree of skill set and experience competing in the top split of tonight's Brickyard 400. And there's a long way to go in this race. We appreciate all of you joining us, and if you're rooting for somebody in specific, if you've got some, Indianapolis Motor Speedway stories, any questions, feel free to interact with us in the chat as the night goes on, as we are almost 1/4 distance through this one after a couple of yellows. There are some drivers, and I think Pataska included, who's maintaining his gap over Conklin. Would love for this thing to go green, log some laps, get through a pit cycle or 2, and then they can start looking at endgame numbers, as a ton of cars got the outside wall there as they came off of 2.
And you have to wonder, and you have to think that the only person who doesn't want this to stay green forever is Dallas Pataska. right? Because he's that driver who stayed out on that big caution when everyone else did. There's a little bit of maybe a small bump to the back of the 8, and here I believe goes Levine on through. Yep. But I said Levine's active in the service, Evan. Levine, lifetime, 3,133 official oval races. He's done 212 official oval races this year on iRacing. That's not counting the leagues he participates in, the other work he does on iRacing, maybe his practices or what have you. 212 official races so far in 2025.
It's impressive numbers because if I do the math, I think that's about more than a race a day or right on the number. So obviously, so many different things you can do on the iRacing service. We talk about it all the time on these special events when, Derek, we get to do these NASCAR and oval ones. But of course, for everybody else who does the rest of the special events here on the iRacing Esports Network, we highly encourage you to be a part of these events, right? If that means joining us on Twitch and YouTube and being a part of the shows, we appreciate having you. But remember, just because these are some familiar names, drivers at the top of the sim racing ladder, if you will, doesn't mean that there aren't opportunities for other people to compete in special events. I've done some of the endurance road runs in splits way down the list, right? But that's the beauty of the splits is you get lined up against drivers with a similar I rating as you. So relatively speaking, similar skill set, similar talent level, meaning that all of the splits are going to be competitive. So if you haven't done it, highly encourage you to be a part of some of these iRacing special events, even if it's not in your normal racing discipline, right? As we see Derek Heitman in the number 8 under fire from Paul Hill in a battle for 7th and 8th spot. I think some of the most fun I have ever had in special events are some of the road enduros, and I'm very much not a road expert. So highly encourage you, if you've ever thought about doing one of these iRacing special events, to give it a shot. Tons of fun, plenty of opportunities, both open setup and fixed.
And it feels great to do them. It feels great to win them. I can tell you that as someone's won back-to-back years now. It feels great to win. So if you want to do the Brickyard 400, you're not out of time this weekend, Evan. There are 2 fixed races left tomorrow. One very early in the morning, set for the maybe the UK or the Australian time zone, and then there's one at noon Eastern time tomorrow. That's the NASCAR iRacing Series fixed setup. There's one more open setup race Sunday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, and then we'll cap it off Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. Fixed setup cars, the last Brickyard 400 of the week. So you still have 4 more shots to get in here and do this race and have fun and do what these drivers are doing. As Evan said, you'll be matched with drivers of your own skill level, and it is a unique experience. And boy, as I said, screw winning, just racing one of these special events, there's a bit of pride you have in completing one of these, whether you win or not. Sometimes just finishing feels like a victory.
100%. Again, that's half the battle in most of these special events that are long races. Is just being a part of it and getting to the end, and the strategy of it's different than your normal 60 lap sprints or 30 lap stuff for some of the weekly things. It's a completely different mindset and is a very good alternative, I think, as well, or addition maybe too, right, for drivers who maybe don't do a lot of the private league stuff and kind of stick to the official, to race against some different drivers on a week by week basis. And if you happen to have the level and your skill abilities to get into a top split, be a part of an event like this, and share the link with your friends and family, and be a part of something cool that you can go back and watch again. The battle right now is between Richard Garcia and the 11 machine, and the 30 car behind now at Joseph Causey, side by side for 11th and 12th position. They got together in the run down the front stretch. They get together again through the short chute, but in the end, the 11 Garcia makes the pass on through, and that 30 Causey, not an insignificant hit to the outside wall. We've been seeing people get the fence all race long.
Yep.
That was a pretty good lick.
And that is going to bite someone eventually, right? Somewhere, either you're going to keep wearing those tires a little bit, you're going to keep kind of breaking the back of that car a little bit, or you're just going to slap it too hard one too many times, and you're going to come across the track. That eventually is going to get someone. I don't know when or even where, but I know it's going to happen. That's just the law of how that works. But you mentioned questions in chat. There was a question. No, this is not an eNASCAR event. I know we have as I like to lovingly call him, Mr. eNASCAR, the voice of eNASCAR, Evan Pasolka with me. But this is not eNASCAR. Anyone with a D 4.0 oval license or higher can compete in the NASCAR iRacing series. So go look it up in the iRacing UI, and you can find all the details there.
Yeah, and again, even if it's short term, hey, I want to be in this right now, you certainly can. But if you look at some of the special events that are next, the Knoxville Nationals from July 29th through August 3rd, the Race for the Cure, which is, if you want a slightly less daunting event, it's a great charity event that benefits the National Multiple Sclerosis Society. That's a 2-hour and 24-minute event. I know that's not short, but in the iRacing world, that's a shorter one, right? You got the Portimao 1000 for the off-road truck fans. You got the Crandon Championship, the Indy 6-hour as well for the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship and the Michelin Endurance Cup right here on the road course at IMS. So that special events calendar really is something fun. And again, if maybe it's not a challenge that you're up for, you're always going to be able to find one of those special event broadcasts right here on the iRacing Esports Network. Working on what I think is now squarely the longest green flag run of this race. 20 or so laps since the majority of the field came down to pit. There was a quick yellow after that, but closed it in on 15, 16 laps under green, and we are now past 1/4 distance in this 160-lap race. 43 laps going to be complete this time by. That leaves us with 17 to go. There's trouble on the front straightaway, right at the pit road entry. Right as we were talking about, this thing's starting to stretch out. It's Evan C. And the iFly Chevrolet is parked right up against the pit wall, and it will be another caution flag at lap 44.
Yeah, and I'm curious. I saw another car down in the pit road area, so I'm curious if those two are related or if that car maybe went down to avoid this caution. Well, we need to wait and find out when the replay machines get spooled up and see what happened. But that sort of came out of nowhere, right? We thought we were setting up for our long green flag run, and then we set it, and it happened. It's unfortunate. Let's watch here what happens. The 12 comes up out of 4, and they just tried to check up for pit road, and on the brakes a little too hard, and that car went around.
That is interesting. Now, the car in front of him had smoked the tires, so I don't know if that spooked him a little bit, right? Or that car had overcorrected by coming in hot, slamming the brakes, and slowed down to a pace that Evan C. was not expecting. You see the onboard perspective there, but, I mean, pretty much everybody coming down the pit road smoked the tires, and I had just mentioned no more than, 10, 15 laps ago, Evan C. is a driver who's competed at a world championship level on the sim. Stuff like that can happen to anybody. And right as a couple of drivers felt like this was an opportunity to make a green flag pit stop and make a move strategy-wise, a mistake there on the pit entry puts us back under the yellow flag. It means that they're all going to be coming down pit road together again.
Now, what I have to think, last time I said there's no way anyone would do 2 tires, and they proved me wrong. And they proved me wrong pretty successfully to Dallas Patoska and some others. So now I'm curious if there's any new people who want to try this 2-tire call. Hey, that worked last time for Dallas. That worked for others. I wonder what it could do for me. So we'll wait and find out what happens here on pit road. And we'll see who does what. Watch the tires lift up on the cars. You see them right there. The right sides up and down your screen. Does the left sides lift up is the question. For most of the cars, the answer appears to be yes. Got some cars already done with their service. They're going to come down, and here's your battle off the pit road.
Drag race off the pit lane, and on the inside is Sean Conklin. Did he win that race off of pit road? It was a drag race to the stripe. Dallas Patoska, we knew he was going to go for 4. Remember, it was a 2-tire decision for him to take over the number 1 position. But in the end, Sean Conklin, using the advantage that he gets by qualifying on pole in this race and being given the number 1 pit stall, is able to win the race off of pit road. So it is advantage to Conklin of that group. Now, Joseph Galata, Paul Hill, those drivers do not come down pit road this time by. Paul Hill looks like he is cycling to the back of the field anyways, but is Joseph Galata going to be able to stay in the number 1 position because he had pitted the lap immediately before the caution? They were the lead cars in that group that came to pit road where the yellow flag came from. Remember, we've already mentioned tonight, if you pit, you do not lose lead lap status. So I think through all of this, Joseph Galata is going to cycle through to be our race leader. When he made the decision to come down pit road, he was in third, and this may just work out beautifully for the number 2 Toyota.
It would have worked out beautifully for Paul Hill, but we heard him report across the iRacing driver's radio that he got caught speeding down pit road. So he would have, that's why he's falling back. He would have been up there probably with Galata on his pit strategy, looking like he made the right call, but that speeding penalty will put him down to the back of the field, unfortunately. So that's why Galata's up there and Hill is not. So this will be really fun for Galata. This is a good call. Remember, he qualified P4, so he's been up front throughout the night, but he's only have 1 lap difference of tires because, as you said, he pitted the lap before the caution.
So quite a move for Joseph Galata, and we've seen drivers on the same tires. You look back to that Pataska strategy, same tires, but 10 lap of difference, and he was able to control the field by using the clean air to his advantage. Joseph Galata's been a fast car up front. I think this gives the two a really good opportunity to take control of this race and get some laps led. He gets his first lap led of the race that time by under the yellow. Now, Sean Conklin's been the other dominant car in this one. He's led 22 laps. He's going to be on the outside of row number 1 now. And at Pataska, I'd call it a mission success for his strategy, right? He went off cycle. His decision in the end works. He leads 22 laps. He'll restart in third. Now finally back on the same tires as everybody else. So 3 really compelling cases inside of those top 3 spots.
Yeah, I would agree, right? And I said a lot of data gained. Now when you get down to those last pit stops, maybe after lap 150 or whenever those end up being later tonight, there'll be some drivers who are willing to make 2 tires stops because they know it works here. So Galata and Conklin up front, Pataska and Nanny back in P2, Heitman and Levine back in P3 or row 3. Pardon me. It's gonna be an exciting run here as we're just almost to the 25% mark of this race. Actually, we're about the 25.
Yeah, just got past quarter distance.
I almost did add an extra set of miles to this race. Let's not do that.
Yeah, I think playing long enough of a challenge as is. So let's see what's in store for the next quarter of this one. Galata, first time as the control car, waits for those white lines on the track. He starts this race inside of the restart box. He goes really late. In fact, doesn't get much of a jump at all. Conklin stays nose to nose. It's going to be competitive for the lead. Pataska, look to the bottom, won't make the dive. We're side by side for the race lead. It's Conklin with the advantage on the outside.
Yeah, Conklin got a great jump there, got a great move on the restart, now leads around at the outside, trying to make that run work. He's got to avoid the wall, and he does. And he'll get a push from behind, from that car behind him. And down the back straight, they're still drag racing, Evan.
2x2, it's a high-speed pace lap. At what they'll top out into turn number 3 is about 195 miles an hour. On the bottom, Joseph Galata swings back and reestablishes control of this race in the number 1 spot. Conklin ends up second. Battle for third, not done yet, but the speed off of turn 4 benefits the cars to the outside. One driver will dive off pit road. That's Evan C., who has to serve a black flag penalty. In the battle for third, no advantage either direction now as Nanny gets through and clear, and now the 4 and the 8 car will duel.
Yeah, now we get the duel back here. You see up on the right side of your screen, there's the pit stop time for Evan Say. He has to come down, and I think that car's still getting repaired, in fact. So up front here in the front of your screen, though, you see the 2 leaders. They're still doing a little bit of that snaking move, Evan. As you see them up front, they're kind of trying to settle it out. Here's Levine back here, still trying to get around that green car. That feels like that's been the look out of Justin Levine's windshield for the past, 15 laps or so, just trying to pass that one car. Not able to do it yet, but he's working lap by lap to make it happen.
And you can see that shot, perfect angle down the front straightaway as there's a ton of dirty air, which means 2 things. One, it's hard to drive up close to the car in front of you, but it means you need to be behind somebody on the straightaways to get the draft. And look at this conglomerate. There's contact there as Newman gets sideways. The driver going low is the 34 Anaki. He pushes up. That's Lars Cheneth now, who's sideways off at 2. What a mess in the midfield. Cheneth not happy with how that one shook out, but They think they get it back to 2x2. That could have been disastrous. They are still not in the clear.
No, this is still not done being settled. There's still some cars wiggling around, hopping around, just trying to do their best here to find a space. Now I think maybe we're starting to settle it more and more as time goes on. Going to look back through the field and see just the, oh boy, the bumps, the beats, the bangs, a bit of a bump draft, trying to get every spot possible you can here on lap 50.
They are not racing like it's 110 laps to go. These drivers want to be aggressive. They have to be aggressive because once you get 10, 15 laps removed and everybody gets into that train with the dirty air, it is very difficult for drivers to make the moves that they want to. You can see still some side-by-side action going on halfway down the back straightaway. 3 wide, do they dare go? As I thought that 26 car at Daniel Wiles was going to go to the inside. He ended up not doing so. The 33 landed Moody there, also a bit of an instigator stirring the pot, but right now that group of 3 cars is stuck behind the battle between the 14 of Wembley and the 29 of Geinsman, and until this gets decided between Gunnigsman and Wembley, nobody behind them can do much. Now the 29 wins out on the outside, and that 33 car, Moody, had a chance to force the 2 wide. Instead, he wants to tuck in behind the 9. Paul Hill picks up another spot.
Yeah, you're right. Back there for a moment, that pink car, this Maggie McGuire was stuck back there for a moment, but now they're single file. Now this will begin again to kind of start to space out, to find your line, find your groove. There's the pink version of the Boston Celtics logo on the front of that car for Maggie McGuire, the Massachusetts native, and having a pretty solid run here in that pink machine. And pretty far down the field at the moment, Evan back here in P26. Maybe not the run you want so far, but still plenty of time here to find something to make it happen. But when you're stuck behind cars that were side by side in the draft like they were a second ago, the best Maggie McGuire can do is sit there and be patient and just hope a hole opens up somewhere.
Well, it's always easy to find Maggie in these races. That pink Toyota, a car that we are used to see here in these top split events. And you mentioned the Bruins logo and some of the random stories that will come out in some of these long races. Derek, I had a chance to tour the Garden, as they call it, up in Boston, TD Garden, and got to check out the Bruins locker room. And as somebody who grew up watching the Montreal Canadiens, felt a little bit dirty to be in the room, but there's so much history in the city of Boston and for an original 6 franchise like the Bruins.
Yeah, I got to correct myself. Twitch chat is already over top of me here. That's the Bruins logo. I said the Celtics. That's not the Celtics. That's the
right
hockey
building.
team.
Right building.
Bruins.
Yeah.
Right city. I mean, you know, for being a West Coaster, I got the city right. But no, that's definitely the Bruins in the hockey look there on Maggie McGuire. Meanwhile, look up front here. That Seafoam green car is trying to make a move on the bottom, trying to get on around here. That is the 10 car, and he's getting outrun on the outside by Daniel Wiles and others.
It seems like the outside has been surprisingly good. You know, the lane is very tight here. It's funny, you're running single file. You're going to want the lane on your own on the bottom, but for whatever reason, side by side, drivers have been able to pinch the car below them, maintain the majority of the preferred lane, and actually do pretty well for them on the outside. Right there's another example. That's Landon Moody in the black 33, holding off McGuire in the pink 16. Gabriel Pellegrino, who was down pit road for some damage repairs earlier on, he had the perspective of that one. Another win for the driver on the outside.
Yep. Again, I am surprised, Evan. I really thought, you know, and it's just a difference of styles of cars and racing and setups and everything else. But typically, it feels like for the Indy 500, the cars on the inside get to the corners better than the cars on the outside.
Oh, yeah.
But here
you don't want to be up top.
No, but here in the Brickyard, it feels like the cars on the outside are dominating this run so far tonight. The outside lane has definitely been the top run. By the way, look at that car right there. You saw him maxing out the RPMs down the backs right there. Here's Jaden Hopp, by the way, one of our younger competitors, a great league racer all across iRacing. You see him lots of weeks throughout different iRacing broadcasts. And remember, Jaden came so close just less than a month ago to winning the Firecracker 400. So this would be a bit of a redemption arc of his own for Jaden Hopp if he could turn around and win the Brickyard.
Yeah, that's a pretty good fallback, right? Try to bounce back, and your number 2 option to try to break through is at the Brickyard. Daytona, obviously, incredibly historic facility in the NASCAR ranks, and I think equally, if not more so, here at IMS with all of the racing history across NASCAR, IndyCar, Formula One, and all the other racing series that have competed here at the racing capital of the world, we'll call it. Battles continue again all over this racetrack as drivers are trying to fight for position with every opportunity that they can, and that's going to be a spot gained, I think. Put it in the bank for Lars Chennet, the 15 machine, making the move on Tanner Love for position there. Now John Swartz going to be under fire as Love wants to follow through, trying to get to the bottom, doesn't have the run as you go on board with that 27.
Yeah, by the way, remember at one point Schwartz was a lap down. He has, of course, gained that back as time goes on. So there's only, I think, 5 cars not on the lead lap currently. Evan Say, James Fitzpatrick, 1 lap and 5 laps down. And then Joshua Lim, Diego Moraes, and Ian Culp out of the race. So there's still 31 cars on the lead lap here as we're now working lap 56, coming to lap 57.
And Love's got the perspective on the bottom. Again, that's that give or take that we mentioned earlier. There were some drivers who, from a half a car length back, made that dive early in this race, and it led to some incidents. I think that's the right decision there. He doesn't force the issue into 3. He almost had the run through the short chute to do it, then lost the nose there. It got tight. He's going to have to reset and try again, but I think that's the discipline you need as a driver who's working his way through the field to make it a full 400 miles here at Indianapolis. Well, as we close in on the halfway point in this one, let's jump on board for some special Race Spot TV fan immersion around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway here on the iRacing Esports Network. 20 as we take you around and to feel and experience the sights and sounds of Indianapolis Motor Speedway. What a moment there with some 3-wide action. That was Justin Nankey, the number 34 car. Chad Goonigsman also involved in that battle. They were 3-wide across the yard of bricks, and battle will continue on going as watching on is Maggie McGuire, taking a look at John Schwartz to the outside and Daniel Wiles to the inside. That battle for what's going to be about 20th on back as they'll finally single file things out, but everywhere we look, Derek, plenty to look at as we get again to that kind of tantalizing magic spot midway through what would be a full run. Nearly 20 laps since we went back green. This has been the moment in basically every long run thus far where we've eventually had an incident.
Well, boy, you know, the point-to-point race spot fan immersion, so we can kind of, as fans, as spectators, we can sit back and relax and enjoy the sounds and enjoy the feeling up close. But as we got to that 3-wide moment, I was thinking, boy, I've seen this play out before. And I was getting nervous as the 3-wide formed there, but they worked it out right before we came back out of fan immersion. So I'm happy to see that worked here. Still battling back through the field here, and a good battle. Maggie McGuire's trying to make the bottom of this track work, trying to get something moving there. I believe has now cleared that car and moves up and will take that spot here. So still lots of racing action going on, about a third of the way through this race, and what does feel like our longest, cleanest run of the evening. Yes, I'll say it, I'll knock on wood, hoping that it does stay that way. And, you know, Evan, this track, of course, when you think of Indianapolis, you don't think of NASCAR, but lots of history here at this track. You know, NASCAR's been here since 1994. Of course, Jeff Gordon, the hometown boy, the Indiana native, very successful the first year at the track. We've raced here every year, you know, a couple years on the road course, but every year since then on this oval. Lots of history, lots of big wins. You know, the Tony Stewart climbing the fence moment comes to mind. Lots of great moments for NASCAR at Indianapolis. And I want to look this up to be sure, but I'm pretty sure Indianapolis is the home of the first overtime finish in NASCAR Cup Series history.
That sounds right on an initial listen, but I'll let you do the research to back the number up and to be sure. Would not be surprised you talk about all the firsts that have happened here at IMS, and I think that would be quite fitting if that's another one that gets added to the list. You mentioned Jeff Gordon, a race winner here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It was, what, the 20th anniversary of the race when he won again for what was going to be his final Brickyard 400 win. And as a avid die-cast collector, that's one of my Gordon cars in my collection is his Exalta Brickyard 400 race to win die-cast. And somewhere, somehow, Derek, browsing the depths of eBay one day, I picked up one of the trophies that they gave to the crew for winning that race, which is not like an original Culver brick, as Gabriel Pellegrino is trying to get around John Schwartz here for 25th and 26th, but a normal brick with an engraving on it is, I don't think either of these guys are going to get an engraved brick battling like that for B25, but that's one of the cooler things I've got in my die-cast collection is that 19 machine of Pellegrino, I think, is happy to get away from that 25. That was a rough couple corners for Schwartz.
The 25 almost got a couple engravings of his own on the side of that car, one from the car inside, one from the wall on the outside. And I have confirmed, boy, the 2004 Brickyard 400 also won, ironically enough, by Jeff Gordon, was the first NASCAR Cup Series race to have a green-white checker finish. It did not end under green, unfortunately, even with that green-white checker attempt, as they were kind of learning the rules and kind of fleshing them out, but still had an attempt of it here at Indianapolis. I remember that race, watching it that year and being so stoked by the new rules. And hard to think now we're 20-some years into green-white checkers. It's almost hard to think there was a time when they didn't exist.
It really has become quintessential NASCAR, and like all things, right, fans will clamor for something, they'll get it, and then as time wears on, you see every once in a while the conversation comes up on, do we really need overtime, or at least unlimited overtime? But it has led to some wild moments. I think of what was the year where was it Jimmy Johnson blowing up at the front of the field, 3 wide in the 400, kind of in more recent years before we switched to the road course around the 2020s. But so many different great moments here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And it's, again, this track was not built for stock cars, so it was quite the spectacle back in '94 when it happened for the first time.
There was the year, I'm going to get it wrong, I believe 2017 at Indianapolis Motor Speedway with the kind of the unlimited restarts where it just kind of kept happening, and eventually Nightfall kind of played a verdict. And when that race ended, they were testing out the new where the green white checker line is. So yeah, lots of history here at this track. I mean, again, Tony Stewart climbing the fence, that's iconic to me. I remember watching that and just, all the Home Depot ads that came out of it. And so although this track is, as you said, not built for stock cars have made their presence known at this track. And now again on the iRacing service, we get the chance to compete in this special event. It's our second year back with it on the iRacing special events calendar. So I'm excited to see it here, excited to see this battle side by side. But that's going to be I guess that's technically the cherry vanilla Dr. Pepper car on the outside. There's a little bit of bump happened right there. I'm not sure how up you are on your Dr. Pepper flavors, Evan, but I'm pretty sure that is the cherry vanilla flavored coloring on the outside there.
Yeah, it almost turned into a float if that thing got wrecked off the corner.
Oh, that's a good one.
They're trying their best. Every time we see a side-by-side battle, they're leaning on each other. Again, that's bold. There's 90 laps to go in this race, but they are fighting hard. And in the end, the 9 gets the spot across over to the bottom as Lars Chenoweth lost the spot, tried to steal it back, and tried to sneak down to the bottom. I don't think the 9 thought that was coming. It was a bit of a late block to shut the door. In the end, they will exchange position as Paul Hill takes 15th. Lars Chenoweth takes P16 in the end. But man, oh man, a close moment there as you see Matt Cox going to be given a black flag. So the 21 machine, I think he wrecked. 21 car, I think that's a black flag for damage. I think he wrecked or something happened to Matt Cox. This race is still green. But
pace.
yeah, that 21 machine lost a lot of spots all at once, so something happened to Cox. We're going to stay green, though, but problems for the 21.
Yep, he is trying to get it to pace. Let's see what happened to him here. And, yep, then the inside spins it around. Oh, that's going to be the required repairs, right? Oh, it's actually going to be an unsafe pit entry is what it's going to be. Yeah, that's what it's going to be because he crossed that yellow cone and then went back out. So he's going to serve that penalty under green, unfortunately, but coming back to that topic, we had about 50 laps to go now, Evan. I talked about how this race is more like an endurance race and less of an oval race in my mind. And the other way to think about that is how hard you want to battle someone here. Not because you want to hold them up, not because you really want to be difficult, but because this is that size of track where if you're, back in probably P15 right now, or maybe closer than that, you can't see the leader. All you can see is that battle happening in front of you. So that battle is important to you because that's your world right now. That's your reality. That's your everything. And hold on, caution's out on the track. We'll come back to that. Lap 71, yellow flag.
Caution flag is back out just as Matt Cox had come down pit road to serve the penalty that he was required. So that might be interesting. There is the culprit slow on the apron. Zach Range is on the pit road entry. That car was scored in the 11th position the last time by the start finish line and is dropping quickly. So we will have to see what happened to the driver of the number 24 machine down in the short chute between turns 3 and 4.
Pretty sure it's going to be a contact between the 24 and the 17 is what we're going to see here. Watch, and we're coming down the back straight here. That car up front, it's a car that's going to be the wrecked car. And not there, actually. I thought it was right there. Oh, he just spun out on his own. And there's a little kind of the finishing touch, if you will, from the car behind him. He just couldn't do anything about it. It's kind of spinning around. But I think I just heard Zach say, no damage. We're all good.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that one. It certainly looked like when the 17 dove in that it was going to be a send. And I'm not an aero expert, right, on how that translates to the sim. I think there's a realistic thing that in the real world, if somebody closes in on your left rear like that, the air might actually take you out anyways. But that 24 certainly started to lose it on his own. I don't know if he would have been able to catch it if that 17 wasn't behind him, but you're definitely right. That car gets loose And for Savillo there's really nothing you can do to check up that quickly with a car on your front bumper, and finished him off, kept it out of the inside wall for all intents and purposes, so the car is not hurt that badly. Well, here we go. Everybody back down to the pit lane, with the exception of Dallas Pataska, 28-lap old tires. He's been the strategy gambler all night long. He does it again. He will stay out and assume the lead. Everybody else in with 28 laps on their tires.
Yep, so these pit stops are kind of working out for everybody because you're just doing them under yellow every time, and it sort of happened right around the middle to end of cycles, it feels like. So we're not really putting anyone off on cycles or in weird spots. And you see the pit stops happening up and down. The right side of that car falls down, the left side will lift up. And you see it from different angles. So 4 tires for most of the field. The race off of pit road is right here, and it's going to be Conklin from the first pit stall.
Yeah, pretty handily. Conklin maintains the number 1 position. Heitman going to be off second. Nanny off third. Galata fourth. Justin Levine, a 5th car off of pit road. Every single car onto pit road deciding to go for 4 tires, which means that every single car on the lead lap's going to be on the same strategy, with the exception of Pataska. And he has made these strategy calls work very well for him so far tonight. But the last time it was, do I want to be on 2-lap old tires that are 8 laps old versus new ones? I think that's a little bit different than 30-lap old tires and everybody else has got 4. He was back in P6, so this is going to get him some track position, but that's a little bit more of a gamble. I think I'd see somebody P16, P26 to go for, right? Like a big swing for track position. Pataska's been in the mix all night, so really curious to see how this one plays out for him.
The bigger concern for me, the tires is one, right? These much older tires is going to be a problem up front, whether it be just on the restart or in that first couple sets of corners. My bigger concern, though, Evan, and I'm going to see if maybe Dallas pits this time by. I'm going to see if maybe he thought the better of this, but I think he's committed to it. Yeah, he is. My bigger concern, though, is fuel, right? My bigger concern is that, you are, 28, 29 laps behind these cars on fuel. You're going to pit off cycle, and not very far from now. In fact, you're going to pit off cycle, possibly under green. So that's my bigger concern, maybe for this stop for Pataskis personally. But for the field, I'm worried about these old tires. Do they spin on the restart? Does he have the grip in the corners? Is he just going to get run over by someone who has much better grip and much better speed? This is going to get possibly a little messy right here on this restart.
It's going to be interesting if he can just get out of the restart box, and if there's a struggle. Again, everybody behind him going to be better, and Pataska will be restarting from the inside of the front row. The challenge here at Indy is it is still a pretty long run down to turn number 1 from where that restart box is. So if you do not get a good jump, you do not have the ability of corner number 1 to kind of bail you out. There is going to be a challenge for the lead. As to the left of the leaders, you see the number 7, J.R. Borborema, still doing that strategy we talked about earlier in this race, continuously coming down pit road, trying to get the car fixed, and then as soon as the field's about to put them a lap down, come back out, stay on the lead lap. But it looks like maybe the 7 did not that time. Beat. Yeah, it was close coming off the exit. I think that scored at the pit lane line, which would be down in turn number 1, very clearly at that spot.
Sorry to cut you off. We're adding a lap here, so we have a lot more time. I think the time it took the 7 to get back to the field is going to cause us an extra caution lap here. But you're right. That was darn close coming off of the line here for the 7, and you're right. It's the pit exit line. But speaking of pit lines, something else we've not really discussed yet. We've really kind of hashed out about every storyline of NASCAR versus IndyCar, but the one maybe the most prevalent is pit entry here, because remember that pit entry line in IndyCar, you really get to dig inside. So watch this pit wall here. In IndyCar, you need to go inside that wall a little bit before you have to check out for pace speed. NASCAR does not allow that. NASCAR, the moment you get inside that pit road, you have to be at speed. By the way, some drivers decided, since we're going to go one more time around under caution, why not top it off? Why not have a little bit more fuel at your disposal? And this is only probably bad news for Dallas Pataska, Evan, for someone who is already going to be off fuel strategy by about 28 laps or so. This is just more laps you're burning. You could argue he's burning less gas under yellow, so maybe that's the positive. But the negative is that it's more laps he's burning and not able to get away from the field or anything.
Yeah, I will struggle to see how this plays out in a good way for him, but Dallas Pataska is a much better race car driver than me, right? And he has been able to make some strategy calls work, so I'm not going to write it off yet, but I think certainly it's going to be an uphill battle. I wonder if he feels like, in a special event like this, drivers obviously can compete in several splits, several races over the course of the week. If he has a little bit more of the mentality of, I would rather win this race than finish in second and third. Right now, this is one of 4 full-length races out of a 36-week calendar with the NASCAR iRacing series, where drivers will compete every single week at the same track and the same cars as what we see in the Cup Series. So there is a larger structure to this. It's not totally standalone. But again, when you can compete in multiples, maybe his idea and thinking here is, I just want to win this race. I believe the yellow flag prior to this, when he got back on cycle with everybody else, he restarted third, and at the moment of caution, he was P6. That's not a big drop, but at least on equal tires, right? Equal strategy to everybody else, seemingly lost spots, right? Didn't watch him that run. I don't know the specifics, but the numbers will tell me straight up he lost a couple of positions. So I don't know if that plays into his decision making at all, thinking, hey, I was losing ground to the guys in the top 5. I just need to get off cycle from them. Whatever the decision is, it's been made. And now we're going to see if Pataska's going to be able to make something happen with it. Still 30 drivers on the lead lap. We are 5 laps shy of halfway home here in Indianapolis. Pataska, can he make the 30-lap bold tires work on the bottom? Green flag back in the air, checking up the inside and the outside lanes.
Yeah, a little bit of a tender restart of being very nice and soft and tender with those tires was Pataska, and got it up slowly up to speed, now up through one or at least one here, and now down into turn 2, and already a nice jump right there. He's got already Derek Heitman behind him trying to make it the speed. Now, what you're going to see, Evan, through these corners most likely, and even other parts of the track, the speed difference that they're going to have with these new tires. They're going to get better grip in the corners. They're able to get on and off the pedals a little faster, a little later, a little earlier, whatever they need to do. They're going to close this gap, but there's 3 wide again at Indianapolis. They made it work. Someone backed out up top, and we're all good here. But looking on back through the field, look at this. It is everywhere around this track on a restart.
Yeah, this looks like one of the most competitive restarts we've seen thus far. Drivers all over the racetrack. Serpentining down the straightaway. The 31 pulled up, shut the door on Paul Hill. That's the crossover right in front of Dyson, who you're on board with. So the 9 car pushes up, squeezing the 31 to the outside wall in the short chute. Now I think the outside's going to end up having the advantage. We've talked a lot tonight about how the outside has worked so good for so many drivers. 1 car loose off the exit goes way low down the back straightaway.
Yep, you see cars moving around, trying to get those moves made, trying to break some drafts maybe and do a little bit of that snaking that we're used to seeing at this track. And on around we go. There's the 15 up top. And that's the cream soda Dr. Pepper, apparently, is what that back at the front of that car says here. So we'll make that note of that, of which flavor that is. But now down the front straight they go again, working the beginning of lap 78 when they cross the line. And basically the whole field is single file.
You've got all the way back to, we'll call it the battle for 16th of single filed out, and that 16th place battle between Charles Wembley and Daniel Wiles. The battle you're looking at right there, the 16 of Maggie McGuire on the bottom, trying to clear the 27 machine of Tanner Love, and she does. So McGuire slides up in front, makes the pass. Next driver on the attack going to be Landon Moody on the bottom. How about some bump drafting at 195 miles an hour? The 3 of Justin Levine sends that 33 into the corner, and it's going to push him clear of the 27.
Yeah, that was a great bump draft right there. Maybe not a move we see all the time at Indy, but definitely something you can do in those very long straightaways here. And now this track is more single filed out here. So, Evan, I'm not sure this sticks out in your mind. Of course, I know you called the race many years ago. We talked about our memories at Indianapolis. You know what sticks out to me, maybe? How close Casey Kerwin came to winning his first eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series race at Indianapolis. Had a bit of a run at the end of a race with a teammate at the time, and Blake Reynolds, who Blake ran out of gas and got in front of Casey, and I think he thought Casey was going to kind of bump him to the win, and then they both ended up not winning the race. I know for a lot of fans that night, a lot of broken hearts for the fan favorite and Casey Kerwin. Another one of the favorite Indianapolis memories this time of the virtual track.
Yeah, we've had some fun finishes here at IMS over the years. As that 4-car lost a lot of speed on the outside. Pataska now starting to struggle on the old tires. Derek Heitman gets through for third. Daniel Nanny is going to make the pass. He'll move up into the third spot, I should say. Heitman all the way to P2. So Pataska's not falling like an anchor's hanging out at the back of the 4, but there is a clear pace difference between the two of those drivers, and it's only going to get worse for Pataska as this run continues to carry on. I always remember the race winner for Dylan Duval here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. That's way back in the 2016 season of the NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. Always notable for me when we get a Canadian race winner, and he was the first driver from Canada to win a race in the Coke Series, third overall internationally. After you had the Brit Richard Towler and the Indian Samdeep Banerjee take-home wins in the inaugural 2010 season. So that was notable because it had been several years since we had an international winner in the series. So that's one of my sim favorite memories here at IMS.
Yeah, and of course, this track, is full of pop culture references. I mean, everybody knows this track in some form for some reason. And boy, what a week, a sad week it's been in pop culture, by the way, Evan. And almost be remiss to say, of course, the world of pop culture lost a lot this week, right? We lost Malcolm Jamal Warner. You lost Ozzy Osbourne only weeks after his farewell tour. And of course, yesterday, the sad news that we lost the immortal Hulk Hogan yesterday morning. So it's been a tough week for the world of pop culture here. And so just some awesome moments here from those celebrities. And boy, this is kind of a sad week, isn't it?
It is, yeah, and I think that as you see down to pit road there, actually, was that McGuire? It was. I don't think she wanted to be down there, but she's going to blend back up. Something happened to that 16 in the corner that put her on that access road. I don't think that was by design because she's back out there now. It's going to cost her a ton of spots, though. Last lap, she was scored in 18th, and she's probably way down and call it 26th now. So she must have just got loose and actually used that access road as an escape road. It was a good catch.
Yeah, it was a good catch. Definitely caught that there. And that luckily for these drivers, there is a bunch of space on this track to catch different moments. Let's watch on board and see what's going to happen. McGuire just got a little loose. Watch the hands fighting, seesawing. And luckily that access road was there. And a lot of tracks we go to week by week, there's not that extra space. What would have been there would have been a wall.
So a good piece of driving to keep that car in this race. Meanwhile, other drivers come to pit road. Joseph Galata's down pit road. He led 25 laps in this race earlier. Evan C. also comes in. This is basically right on the money at the halfway point. So it takes me back to that Pataska pit stop, right? Is this trying to play the reverse strategy game? You've hit your number, and instead of driving the car empty, you know that from this point, you could make it on, call it a one-stop. That's your number. You can stay on the lead lap. Let's make the decision. The yellow flags, I'm not going to say have hurt the strategy much tonight. I think it's kind of worked in two directions, right? Some cars have pitted early, and it has hurt them. Some drivers have pitted early, and the cautions have helped them because they've been able to cycle through. But I admire the drivers for sticking to their guns. And you see Galata there and Evan C. Those look like they were both fuel-only decisions to come down pit road. So again, if it's fuel-only, you got tires, 7-8 laps ago. That's certainly a decision to make the long game here. Pataska's in, so is Paul Hill. So a lot of drivers thinking the same thing now as we're past halfway.
So right around 39, 40 laps is the call. But it's going to be a little muddied in numbers because of the caution laps and how long it can really go. But part of the reason I was thinking to myself, Evan, I don't know if I like this call by Pataska, is because I think you just gave information away unwillingly to the rest of the field. Right now, the rest of the field knows for certain how long you can push on a tank of gas. They just watched Dallas Pataska do it. So now you can start to plan for that. Say, hey, he went this many laps, so we can probably do that. Anytime as a race car driver that I see information being given away, that's a real pet peeve of mine as a driver. I don't give away anything. I know across iRacing we have those voice chats. We have the driver's chat where you can kind of be friendly and you can socialize and you can apologize for wrecks. And I'm not one of those people, like if someone said, hey, how much gas you got left? That's for me to know and you to find out as a driver, right? I don't ever talk about tire percentages on the radio. I just think those are my information to plan with. As Jaden Hopp got a little wiggly out of the corner there, but I think Dallas Pataska just unwillingly gave away information for free to the rest of the field.
In these races, we always talk about, is we wired on board there with Jaden Hopp in the number 7 spot, is it's maybe a little bit more difficult to get a read on your competitors than if you're in a league race, right? If you're in a league, you're always going to get the same 30, 40 people every single time. Even though in official racing, though, if you're top split, you're used to some of the familiar faces, right? But it's not as structured. You're not going to have, 4 different discords with 8 drivers apiece, right? From different teams, where the strategy is a little bit more cut and dry across groups of race cars. So you do have to take those context clues from other drivers when they're going to give them to you. And it's easy if I'm the leader, if I'm Conklin and I'm not tuned in with a crew chief or somebody spotting it for me. If I've got my relative up and I can only see the 4 cars behind me, and a guy pits from P6, I may not notice that change, right? I might not notice that pit stop is happening. And that's why, listen, some drivers, it's not a pro championship race. It's not a league race. They're not always going to have a spotter or somebody in sim with them, but these are the moments where that's beneficial. Or if you're in a Discord or something with some of these other drivers, to know what's happening throughout the field, because it can be tricky to monitor that kind of stuff on your own.
It can, for sure. It can be very tricky to monitor it, but drivers do. Trust me, as drivers, we love details, we love data, we love to know what's going on around us, and so I'm sure most of them know how long Pataska wins. I'm sure most of them have a number in their head, or they've discussed it with friends or spotters. A good number of people tonight in this race, Evan, have friends up in the spotter stand, if you will. Sean Conklin has one, Dallas Pataska, Richard Garcia, Joseph Cowsey, and I think Landon Moody are the last drivers left in the race to have spotters or crew chiefs in this race. So those friends and teammates are beneficial, Evan, because they can do more things for you. Not only kind of call the spotting of the race and do that, but they can give you information. How long do you have left? Where are people on the track? And so that's where that sharing information becomes even more relevant.
And if you don't, have somebody in the sim with you, and you don't have other drivers that you're familiar with, yeah, you've got to pay attention. I mean, you've got to be looking at the leaderboard. A lot of the time, drivers is Vincidius Burns going to be coming down pit road. Drivers will use a 4th screen for a live timing screen. Is the same way, if we don't have the live shot of the car coming down pit road, then, we'll see on my timing and scoring, it'll flash orange for a car pitting, right? Those kind of visual cues. Drivers are going to have things set up in a similar way for them to be able to know what's going on. And drivers can kind of build those timing tables to give them the information that they want. I typically stick with, pit lane time, pit stall time, runs, like the length of a run for broadcast purposes. But drivers may look at 5-lap average, 10-lap average, right? All kinds, just like it was, a slightly less specific version of SMT in the real world. These drivers can build out these timing screens to give them whatever data they feel like is going to help them strategize their race the best.
Yep, and it does become a battle, by the way, as we're now watching another pit stop here from Andrew Dyson, the Australian. There does become a battle when you have to kind of figure out what is relevant and what do I need, and when do I cross that line of too much data. That's easy to do as a driver. You can easily get too much data in your head, and you have to kind of battle that and turn it back down. So now Andrew Dyson, the next one here to pit under green, and battle on track, by the way. That is a good battle up there to turn 3, now almost side by side through turn 4, Evan. And that is the orange car, I believe. Is that Justin Levine on the bottom?
It might be the 3. It is, yeah, Levine on the bottom, and he's got the disadvantage on the run down the front stretch. He's the one trying to pass Charles Wimbley, but Wimbley was able to get a good run off of 4 up top. He's not going to be able to clear the 3 yet, and all over the quarter panel, Justin Levine stays there. So Daniel Wiles will watch on as the battle for 11th and 12th continues. Now look at this. Now it's the 3 car slotting up on exit, squeezing the 14 against the outside wall.
Yep, a great battle here happening here, and just trying to keep in contact as Justin Levine, trying not to make it easy, just trying to kind of be a menace. That's the word I love to use when it comes to racing. Being a menace is not a negative thing per se. It just means you're persistent, you're visible, you make them aware of your presence, and you're kind of hoping that that other driver slips up. Maybe that you don't do anything physically, but just your aura of being in that spot will make a driver nervous and open a hole for you.
It's all about putting somebody in the position to make the mistake of themselves. I don't think many of these drivers, if any, are going to, just put somebody in the wall for a spot. But if you could make your competitor uncomfortable and to make them choose, am I going to push and maybe step over that line and, put my car on the wall or spin my car out, or am I going to give this guy the spot? Make them make that decision. And it's a bit of a risk on your part, too. If they decide to fight, you're in a vulnerable position also. But that's what some of the best drivers will do, is just try to put their competitors in an uncomfortable spot and make them make that choice, right? Is it worth it? You really want to fight me for this spot now? If I'm going to put you up and in the gray stuff up top? And again, I think overall tonight we've seen much more side-by-side racing than I was anticipating, and a lot more success from that outside line that continued in that battle.
Yep. I definitely have. But now for the drivers, I think things start to change in your head a little bit. We're now working lap 92, 160. Now things start to change for you, because now we get to start counting down the laps, right? And once you're past halfway, a lot of drivers start going, okay, I'm going to count down in numbers. Now we're 80 to go. Now we're 77 to go, 76, 75 to go. So now this race really starts to move faster in your head because you're counting down the numbers. What does that mean? It means the pressure builds to make a move. And that's why maybe you see Justin Levine, working a little harder to keep the pressure on that car. Is maybe why you see someone like Daniel Wiles pushing a little harder in the corner, because when the laps begin to tick down, that mental state, that mental awareness of time becomes very prevalent for you, Evan. You really go, oh my gosh, there's not much time left, because you look down one moment, maybe we're 80 to go, and it feels like, again, as a driver, you look down sooner, oh my gosh, we're 70 to go. Where did those 10 laps go? And you have to be aware of that.
And remember, by this point now, is some of these battles will continue on, is pretty much half of the field, actually I'll call it a third, maybe a little bit less than a half, have decided to make that decision to come down to the pit lane, right? We thought it was pretty obvious. Just shy of the halfway point, you come down pit road, you're going to make a one stop. From that point on, pit with about 39, 40 to go, and you're good to the end. All of those cars are still 25th on back. Joseph Galata, the leader on that strategy, we'll call it. Everybody else from 24th on up, still 20 laps since they pitted, all together under the yellow flag. If those cars want to be able to go to the end on a one stop, they would be looking at about a 45 lap run. So 39 lap stints versus 45, that currently would be the difference between which of the two strategies is a successful one.
And what that means towards the end of this race is how long is that final pit stop, right? If I could pit and need, let's say, 5, 6, 7 laps less of gas, that's maybe a second or two less I need to be on pit road. And what does that mean for me? It probably means I win the battle on track, because obviously time on pit road equates to time on track. And so if I can make that last pit stop any shorter by stretching this gas tank, I want to do that so that I can maybe just get every iota an advantage I could get at this historic racetrack. Here's Daniel Wiles, the U.S. native, back in P13, and he is trying right now to run down Charles Wembley and Justin Levine. Those are the two cars up ahead. That's Wembley right ahead in that white and highlighter yellow machine. And down through turn 1. And the one thing I've noticed here as a driver the past maybe 10, 15 laps, Evan, if we watch the drivers here, watch how differently these drivers want to abuse that corner and that white line. Some drivers really get down in there like Justin Levine just did. He's almost down to that stone, that brick portion of the corner. Some drivers are scared to touch that white line in these corners.
Yeah, we're seeing that.
That's right here.
Some drivers right there, below the white line, but only one of the, 4 or 5 cars in that immediate line dared to dip below the white line. We've seen a couple of drivers tonight either completely spin out on their own in the short shoot. I really haven't seen a lot of it off of 2 and off of 4, right? We see some cars get a little tail happy, but it's just for whatever reason, the high speed, you break into turn 1, into turn 3, and then back on the gas, the cars just seemingly get a little bit more unsettled there. We've seen drivers get loose or outright spin on their own. So it's not always as cut and dry as, they got the left side tires way below the white line and onto that curbing. which is basically like ice for these stock cars. But everybody's got a different way to get around this racetrack. Just to put a button to on that strategy, to your point, right? It could be the first thing I mentioned, where there's one group of drivers who are trying to go, call it 45, right? Make it on a one-stopper. And then the other group who knew, hey, we're not going to be able to do that, so let's come in, splash, and then make a two-stop strategy. Everybody could also be on a two-stop strategy, right? There could be no legitimate way for anybody to go for the 45, and the cars who have yet to pit, to your point, will take that splash at the end. So it could be two different strategies, right? One group trying to make it on two stops, and one of them trying to hold out for one stop only. Or it could be two different flavors of the same strategy, where the cars who pitted early wanted to go for the splash at the start. They'll take a full tank of fuel to the end, whereas the rest of the cars will take a full tank of fuel and then a splash inside of the final 10. So could be two, could be one. We don't know, and that's the beauty of this, is trying to figure out and pick up the cues on who's on what call, what we think is going to work out in the end, but certainly a lot to discuss strategy-wise. Look at the 14. Wembley wanted to go 3 wide, and Justin Levine shut that down real fast.
Yeah, maybe Levine saw what happened before. Said, nah, I don't think so. But Levine got a little loose right there in the corner himself. Went down to the bottom of the track, got a hold of the car, and down he goes. But I think Levine remembers what happened with other 3 wides and said, no, you know what? I'm good. I like my spot. I like running on the track. So we'll keep it now single file, if not 2 wide. By the way, of note here, remember we all pitted, well, most people pitted back in lap 73 under that caution. We're now working lap 96. So per what Dallas Pataska showed us, Evan, we got about another, 17, 18 laps, I would think, before our next set of green flag pit stops should occur. That would take us up to about 113 or so in this race. Take us into 153 or so. So as you said, no one's safe. Everyone's looking at a splash and go of some kind if this stays green. The amount of splash and go you need will be important on that last pit stop.
And it's going to be a waiting game for us to see which strategy ends up being the right one in the end. It's going to be a waiting game from us to this field to figure out whose decision is going to be the best. We started the night with 36 drivers. There are still 32 cars on the, I'll call it within a lap of the leaders, right? In a competitive state to where they could win this race if things fall their way one direction or the other. So there is plenty of opportunity to win this iRacing Brickyard 400. Let's highlight some of the drivers who have been dominant thus far. Of course, you can't skip over Sean Conklin, the number 1 driver in the field, of course, with the number 1 based on the highest I rating of the drivers competing. He's led more laps than anybody else at 45. Now, Dallas Pataska's been the strategy man tonight. His most recent strategy play, though, has put him from the number 1 spot to position number 28. After having stayed out on old tires, really cycled him down throughout the running order, and unfortunately for Dallas, now finds himself way off of the race leaders. The other driver who's found success tonight, Joseph Galata, led 25 laps with a bit of strategy to help him get up there. He is in the same strategy play as your leader, Conklin. He's up in the number 4 spots. Those are, we'll call it the big 3 players so far from this race.
Yeah, at least the big 3 leaders, I would say, from this race, right? And if we take a look at the spots gained and lost throughout the night, there's some other big players, so we'll highlight those real quick. Joseph Causey's up 26 spots from where he started up in P8. Keegan Sobolo is up 22 spots. Daniel Wiles, Justin Levine up plus 15 or more on their own. So depending on how you define the biggest winners or the big performers of the night, it really, stats can provide different ones of those, but different stories you see around the right side of your screen now, how many spots people are up and down. And unfortunately, Evan, for every big gainer, there has to be a big faller. And that moves to Dallas Pataska, currently down 21. I think that's the biggest negative. Maybe 22 for Joseph Galata, maybe, or no, yeah, 22, 21, 22 for Galata. So again, for every big gainer at the top of the list, there has to be someone. What's that science thing? For every equal and something reaction. I'm a C student in science. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. I think that's right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the phrase, right? And you can't have people picking up spots unless somebody's losing those spots, and that's the trade-off. Is for every good story, there's somebody who's struggling with the way that this race is continued to shake out. Still a long way to go, but inside of 60 laps, again, the magic number is likely 1, maybe 2 for some of the drivers in terms of how many more times they need to come to pit road. I will not mention what has happened on every long green flag run of the night, Derek, like I did last time, because we saw how that worked. But I will say now, Sean Conklin next time by is going to be 30 laps under green since he was last down pit road with everybody else. So we are squarely in the longest green flag run of the afternoon.
Yep, and I'll be curious to see. Remember, Dallas Pataska achieved that number he did of number of laps with some caution laps. In fact, even an extended caution to help kind of pull him around the track a few more times. I'm curious, in a pure green flag setting, what that would mean. By the way, Conklin down at pit road. That is surprising, and I thought maybe a little early. That's only less than 30 laps on this run. Unless I did math wrong earlier on Pataska, I thought we were going longer than this.
And this would then clarify that everybody is on a 2-stop strategy, which is what we thought, right? We thought that there was maybe drivers trying to stretch 1, but again, you'd have to get to 45. That's a mammoth number. We thought maybe something in the mid to high 30s was possible, but this very clearly, at about 60 laps to go, tells you that it is a 2-stop strategy for everybody. So that first group of cars who pitted, we knew they were going to have to come down pit road again. That doesn't surprise us, but this very clearly tells you that the cars who had yet to pit seemingly are not going to be able to stretch it out to a 1-stopper. Everybody from the last time we restarted would need 2 trips down pit road to be able to get enough fuel to go the distance. Now we'll see how much variation there is inside of that strategy, and there's a spinner at a turn number 4.
no.
Caution is out. Daniel Wiles in front of the field. They're all going to have to dive low to avoid him, and just as we were about to see some green flag pit stops, that is going to shake things up, and that may work out incredibly well for Sean Conklin if he's still scored on the lead lap.
Yeah, I think it does. I think he is. I think he's going to get to circle back around here after all the pit stops are done. So he's going to kind of luck out and have that moment. But boy, a wild ride there for Daniel Wiles. And it's going to be just a crazy moment. So here we are on lap 103. Let's see what happens to Wiles. Got down below the white line. Doesn't really track up that far. I think he's just going to stab the brakes here. And I think what happened, Evan, he kind of decided he wasn't going to make pit road, realizing this was too far to the right. And watch it from this point of view. I think he's just tries to abort pit road here. There's a car in the way. It's that Dr. Pepper car.
I think he just
on track.
Yeah, he's going left on the wheel. I think it just spun on him, very similar to what we saw out of Evan C. earlier.
Yep.
I think, to your point, he was definitely too far to the right. I think that's because the car in front of him checked up maybe a bit too much, and he obviously didn't want to hit the car. He kind of offsets to the right, but with that pit road wall there, he found himself staring right at it. He did not want to become a skewer and gave it a little bit more brake. I think just locked it up and spun it.
Well, here we come. Pit stops once again. The moment we start to praise the green flag run, it feels like it ends abruptly with that caution. So Heitman, Nanny, Garcia, Six, and others going to come down pit road. And I'm pretty sure for anyone who pitted before this yellow, they're going to come cycle around here in just a moment and lead this field.
They're going to get that opportunity, and we should see now all of these leaders come to pit road. 55 laps to the end, certainly too far to be able to go from this point on to the end. The risk here is for the drivers who had pitted already. If you stay out and stick to your guns on your fuel number, you're then going to be on old tires being chased down by cars with fresh ones. So do any of the drivers who pitted earlier double dip and come down pit road again, right? I'm looking at the Paul Hills of the world. They only need one more pit stop to go to the end of this race if it stayed green. A lot of them are coming down pit road now, Derek. They just do not want to stay out and be on old tires. So this is going to really hurt those drivers because this is going to put them at a square disadvantage. If everything stayed green, there would be no disadvantage or advantage to pitting first or last. But the fact that you have to come down with everybody else just for tires means that this is a big L on the strategy for, we'll call it, those 8 cars or whatever that pitted earlier?
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that 110%. So we'll wait and see how everyone lines up here. Of note, some of you have heard this before, Dallas Pataska doesn't pit. And I bring that up because he had not pitted yet. He last pitted on that stop he made under green on lap 84. We're now working lap 106. So Pataska, again, finds himself about 21, 22 laps off a strategy here due to a caution flag.
Yeah, seems perennially off strategy tonight. In one way or the other, right? Has been Dallas Pataska. 22 laps. He looks like the only driver who pitted, knew that if this race stayed green, only had to make one more stop to the end, and stuck to his fuel number. Everybody else on that strategy with him came down pit road because they did not want to be out there on 20-lap-old tires. The sample size that told them that they probably did not want to be out there on 20-lap-old tires was probably when Dallas Pataska did it the last time, ironically enough.
Yep, I would agree. That's probably the last time it's going to happen and where people learn from it. So right now, it's a little interesting up front. You got Conklin, who pitted a 103, Pataska 84, and then you go back through, I was trying to see here. I guess it's all pretty even there, 103 to 106. So it's just Pataska, once again, sort of the lone sheep, if you will, the lone wolf is the one I want to use right there. I mixed up my animal analogies there for a second. I mixed up black sheep and lone wolf, and that was a little awkward.
At least same type of animal, right?
Yeah.
2 mammals, so could be worse.
Yeah. I'm not sure how. The lone shark, I guess, would have been, I don't know.
That would have been really out of pocket.
A lone shark is a different thing. That's a guy who really beats you on interest rate, Yeah,
if you've got that on your mind, we should talk about that sometime if you're dealing with one of those. Yeah. We'll see, though. We're inside of the final third of this race, inside of 60 laps to go. And now, again, it's a reset button on the strategy. So this times out beautifully for Sean Conklin. Not that he needed a little bit of luck. He was already the driver, I would say, pretty squarely in control of this race if it had stayed green. And again, the fact that this is a big racetrack bails him out. If this is an intermediate track, that timing puts him a lap down, and he's pretty much screwed, for lack of a better term. But this big IMS keeps him on the lead lap. He had just gotten fuel and tires, so when everybody else pitted, he circled back to the lead. So it is technically a lap difference on the tires, but that's a wash. So we're going to say Conklin's on equal tires compared to everybody else. Pataska, the only odd man out here, who pitted about 23 laps ago, planning to make a 2-stop strategy to go to the end of the race. He pitted with about 7 other drivers. Those other 7 cars kind of abandoned the strategy and decided to come down pit road anyways, get tires to match up with everybody else. So it's going to be the second time tonight that Dallas Pataska will line up on the front row with a significant tire disadvantage to the rest of the field. Last time, he dropped from the front row to position number 27. We'll see if it works out better for the 4-car this time. But the strategy is pretty clear from this point to the end. The restart will have 53 laps to go. Every single one of the 30 drivers still on the lead lap in this race still have to make a pit stop before this race is done. Conklin, a familiar face on the inside of the front row. Green flag back in the air. And as Conklin starts to pull away off of turn number 2, the battle for P2 is on. Justin Nankey on the inside of Pataska. Here comes Derek Heitman to the bottom. 3 wide for third. More 3 wide behind them. Who wins a high-speed game of chicken? It's a 2-for-1 pass. Heitman goes to P2. Now it's Nady on the inside.
Oh, it's almost Pataska up on the wall is what it is. And there you see the difference in those tires, right? 20-some laps, and the way they can get through the corners in a race where we've often talked about the top lane being dominant, just the difference in grip, the difference in confidence of those tires allow people to get around Pataska. He's now going to try and dig to the inside, but thought the better of it, and is going to stick in line right here. But quickly, Pataska's going to fall through the field here. Already back down a few spots, and now it's on the outside of that Dr. Pepper car, and I thought they were going to make contact, but all is good. But boy, every restart as we get closer and closer to the finish of this race, Evan, is going to feel more and more frantic because that intensity is going to pick up. The anxiety is going to pick up. The need for speed is going to pick up here because drivers know they have to move to the front very quickly.
And that's the look off of the back of the battle, we'll call it, for 8th position between Zach Range on the inside. It's the 15 machine up on the outside of Lars Chenoweth. Continuing on the continuous battle for position, some 3 wide further back, and on the bottom it is Zach Range gets the benefit of Lars Chenoweth. So Lars will drop back a position, now dealing with the number 3 Justin Levine on the inside line. So far, the old tires for Dallas Pataska have dropped that car to P5. There's more to come as you go on board with Brandon 6, who gives a bump to the 15 machine.
Ooh. The 15 kind of started to move down a little bit, and I think we almost forgot he wasn't clear, but everyone got good there, and we're all good. So that 15's up ahead of the 22. Cautions out once again on lap 110. This will make things interesting fuel-wise. Who wants to come down and top off on fuel will be a great question here in just a moment. There's your slow car. That's John Schwartz, I do believe. And he's had a rough night from that first penalty from the first wreck. Is that John Schwartz? Maybe it's not. Maybe that's one of the
Schwartz is the car that spins. I think that's where the yellow comes from, but it starts with the 19 of Gabriel Pellegrino. So I think this is gonna be a 2-parter to figure out the full story here, because a lot happened off of turn number 2. So here's coming off of turn number 2. 3 wide. It's Pellegrino in the middle. Contact. That's the number 29 machine up into the outside wall.
Ooh.
That's Gunningsman up top, and then as they avoid that wreck, he tries to go by on the bottom, but it lines him up for the grass. He did not want to go through the grass, gave it too much wheel to the right, and kind of came up like a torpedo onto the racing surface, and Schwartz eventually back down into the inside. I struggle to say I blame him for that very aggressive overreact, because I've seen cars at speed drive into the grass on the back straightaway there where it shows up and get airborne. So it's an understandable fear, but it was certainly an aggressive move.
Yeah, and wreck avoidance is always hard. And, of course, the more speed you add to a car in a track like this, wreck avoidance becomes harder because then when you start to move that wheel back and forth to avoid something, the instinct of the car is just to spin. Watch the onboard shot right here. This is John Schwartz. And see how he's going to see the wrecks and come down. And when he comes back up, he barely taps that or nicks that grass part of me. I think that unfortunately did not do him any favors. And then around he went. So you're right, not the cause of the caution, maybe the secondary caution here. Down at pit road, and Dallas Pataska leads him down. So for the first time in a while, Dallas Pataska will be on brand or on schedule with some of the drivers here. Only a few laps since our last pit stop, but this I think really benefits Dallas Pataska, Evan. This really helps him as far as getting back on schedule, and if you look at it here, he might even now be ahead on schedule strategy wise.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised by the big number. 49's a long way to go. To your point though, it may not be a all or nothing decision, right? Certainly, I don't think anyone's going 49, 50 laps to the end of the race onto fuel, right? We think that number's kind of mid to low 30s. There's 2 trains of thought, right? One of them is if you get enough caution flags, right? If it's late in this race, inside of 50 to go, if we keep wrecking on restarts and there's ample opportunities to stay out there and save fuel, it's a bit of a long shot, but not impossible. The other thinking is, listen, I'm running 25th, hypothetically. If I come down and pit and come back out 25th, I might as well take fuel because, Derek, to the point that you made earlier on, I might be able to then take 2-3 seconds off of my pit stop later on.
Yep, exactly the point that I was thinking of, right? Now we talk about how long that last pit stop is. Well, now those drivers in the back, Pataska and others, now have the advantage. in that conversation. You know, I was thinking in my head, though, under the last caution, we talked about how Sean Conklin benefited because of this big track at Indianapolis. He pitted before the caution came out and was able to get back around and assume the lead. I think the next time you and I are doing a special event is Bristol, the last full-length NASCAR special event of the year up in September. And I was thinking about it in my head. I was like, boy, if you get caught pitting and a caution comes into Bristol, you're not going back to the lead. You're going laps down. So and we'll do that race in about, a month and a half or so from now. It'll be a much different strategy about pits. You'll be holding your breath from the moment you pit until the moment that the cycle is done. So two very different racetracks, different size of racetracks will behave very differently if cautions come out.
And the lights go out on top of the pace car that time by. So the restart will be with 47 laps to go in this race. We've got about 2 minutes under the yellow flag. Derek, let's do a quick look top to bottom at where everybody runs and update everybody on, if you've got a driver you're cheering for, where they sit. Your top 10 are as follows. Sean Conklin and Derek Heitman. We're going to line up on row number 1 with Daniel Nanny and Justin Yankee on row 2. Richard Garcia, Zach Range on row 3. Justin Levine and Lars Chenoweth on row number 4. And then Brandon 6 and Joseph Cozy are your top 10.
Back in the P11, you'd find Tanner Love and Keegan Sabillo, while Charles Ribley and Paul Hill back there in 13-14. 15 and 16 is Maggie McGuire and Joseph Golada, with Evan Say and Landon Moody behind them. The 19th and 20th, Andrew Dyson and Daniel Wiles.
And then continuing on, it's going to be Vicinius Burin in 21st with Dallas Pataska 22nd. Back on strategy with everybody else. Chad Gudigsman and Gabriel Pellegrino 23rd and 24th. Jaden Hoppus 25th. J.R. Borbaremas 26th. Ahead of Keegan Fleckenstein 27th. Thomas Freeman 28th. Sean Anderson 29th. Brad Newman P30.
Then John Schwartz involved in that last caution, the last car on the lead lap. Then Matt Cox 1 lap down. And then James Fitzpatrick, Joshua Lim, Diego Moraes, and Ian Culp round out a 36-car field.
It's a look top to bottom at your iRacing. We'll call it the midway race break as we get closer and closer to the end of this iRacing Brickyard 400. Just a little bit over 2 hours. Time has elapsed since the drop of the green flag. And we are so very close to the final stint to the end. We appreciate you being with us late into the night here on the East Coast on the iRacing Sports Network. Let's try this one again. Sean Conklin on the front row, this time joined by Derek Heitman to the outside. Two of the drivers who have been in the mix all night long going to go toe-to-toe as we're back underway. That one, I don't know if he spun the tires or intentionally dove low, but he was all over the track. Nonetheless, it's 2 car lengths of an advantage in turn 1.
Yep, a great move there by Conklin. I'm not sure which one it was. It was an attempt to snake the field or just maybe spun the tires, but a quick jump here over top of Derek Heitman, that P2, that green car, and then on back from there. More attempts to stay away from that wall out of turn number 2. They see the field kind of scatters to the left just by nature because of how that wall was shaped. Now down here into turn 3. And again, you'll see the different strategies playing out. Who wants to ride that line where? Some people below that white line, some people not, or 3 wide up through these corners.
That was Sabillo, who was just way off pace in the 17. Yeah. That was almost a wreck. I mean, they were 3 wide. We stay green, but that car lost a bunch of spots. I don't know if it was McGuire or the other pink car, but somebody else lost about a dozen spots. And now we're 3 wide, headed down to turn number 1. The 22 machine, a Brandon 6 on the bottom. It's the highest the 22's been all night, but he gets sideways. Oh, no. Spinner between 1 and 2. He'll tag the 14. Look out. Huge accident in turn number 2.
This is going to be the big one right here, I think, because that's going to involve a few cars. There's Maggie McGuire up in the wall, had nowhere to go. Keegan Sabillo required repairs. He'll be out of this race more than likely. Some other cars we'll need to get some numbers on, but that's probably going to be the worst wreck we'll see all night because those cars went spinning through the short chute and then back up the corner in front of everybody.
I mentioned earlier the is it worth it metric, right? And Brandon 6 was put in an uncomfortable position by the aggressor, Paul Hill. That was a battle for position. that led up to what happened in turns 1 and 2, and we'll see it as it starts. On the front stretch, it makes 6 go way low. That's not the natural entry for the 22. He enters low, blocking the 9 from getting under him. And what does it do? It makes the car tight on exit. That's just not how you enter the corner. He tags the number 14 machine. That's Wembley who goes up the hill, and at that point, make it about half a dozen cars involved as they block the track in 2.
And boy, if you watch that again, you'll see Maggie McGuire had no idea. They thought they had cleared that wreck, and they got tagged in the back end at the very last second. Maggie had almost cleared that wreck before it happened. Watch here from this point of view. You see the wreck's going to come up here right about now. Maggie's going to stick to the top side. I got it. Don't got it.
And that's the right decision, right? I mean, the cars are spinning low. You're not going to turn down into it, and it cleared up real quick once those cars got tagged. They shot up the hill so fast, absolutely nothing she or the other cars could have done.
And that's the more frustrating part of a wreck, right? It's obviously no fun to be in a wreck. I'm not suggesting that, but when you think you've cleared the wreck and you're like, oh, I got it, I'm past it, and all of a sudden something happens, it's more defeating because so much you think you found a way out, right? You found the secret escape plan out of the tunnel. You beat the escape room, whatever analogy you want to use, and then someone shuts the door on you and says, no, you're not done yet. So we'll see a bunch of cars coming down pit road this time, led by Justin Levine. And this will be from about P6 or 7 on back. So this will even shake up things more, because now these cars will have the advantage if we stay green, and they'll try and see what they can make happen here as time goes on.
And there is no rhyme or reason to the strategy, right? Everybody's got a different idea. So more cars pitting this time than last, right? Obviously, at the forefront of everybody's mind is fuel, but Derek, some of the cars who pitted 5 laps ago did not pit this time, right? That would be Pellegrino, that would be Hop. But then other cars who pitted 5 laps ago pitted again in Galata, in Burin, and others. So there is no one call. Everybody has a different idea of what the right decision is. And this is kind of the blender of strategy that we had alluded to a little bit earlier. We have reached that point at IMS where this is the moment where everyone thinks the move they're going to make is the race-winning move. You've got to start making those decisions now.
And what you're hoping for is that you're going to make the call that you pitted on the last caution, right? That's what everybody here is hoping for in some way or another. You're hoping that these guys right here, Justin Levine on back, are hoping they made the call for the last caution of the night so that they, quote unquote, made the best call. And so every time that caution happens, you'll see a few drivers get tempted by the idea, well, what if this is the last one? I don't want to be caught without the appropriate amount of gas, or I don't want to be caught off cycle, or I don't want this, or I want the newest tires possible. Hey, there's a conversation, right? Now that's offset because of the rules of this series where there's tire limits. You don't get to change tires every pit stop. I know you said that earlier, a little bit of a passing, but there's a limit. And I believe 8 sets of tires, 7 plus the one you came in with, is all you get for this race. Now that sounds like a lot, but with the number of cautions we've had, if you feel tempted to change tires every caution, you'd either be right on the brink of, or maybe already out of tires with a good number of laps to go.
Yeah, for the leaders who have, I'll make a generalization here, but for the leaders who have not had issues tonight, they've been down pit road anywhere from 4 to 6 times. But for drivers who have, like this, right? Look, more drivers. Look how many cars are going to come in and top off because they feel like one lap of difference could be the difference between having fuel or not to the end. For those drivers, there's some cars who have been down pit road as many as 16, 14, 12 times. So, yeah, you can't just always do tires because if you're down pit road with those strategic plays, it's not going to work out. But that is a astonishing amount of cars back down pit road. They feel like, listen, 43 might not be my number, but maybe I can make 42 work. It's fascinating. Look how few cars are on the racetrack right now.
Yeah, there'll be a much more trying to come around here and catch the field pretty quickly. They'll have time to do it because, again, the pace speed here is only 70 miles an hour, so you'll have time to get this done. Well, I do want to mention again, if you think you want to do this event, there are more open and fixed Brickyard 400 races this weekend. Feel free to sign up. You need a D 4.0 oval license or above, and of course own the car and track and have the active iRacing account, and you could be out here and listen. I know right now we're broadcasting top split, Evan, but I'm going to say this very boldly. it doesn't matter what split you win. Go out there and win something. We all both have friends who go out. Maybe it's not top split, but a win is a win. One of my best friends, Doug Rice, went out and won in the Tabula Rasa esports machine last night in a mid split. And I said, hey man, a win is a win at the Brickyard.
Oh yeah, I did. I think the last special event I've done, it's been a couple years, back when iRacing had the Le Mans 24. And we were probably a high teens, low 20s split, and we were super pumped to be a top 15 car overall in our LMP2, right? It doesn't matter. Once you load into the session, every race is a battle for a win at an iRacing special event, and it really encourages everybody to be a part of it. But if you've tuned in with us, 42 exciting laps are on deck. We've had some dominant cars tonight. Sean Conklin stands above them all. Can anybody find a challenge for the number 1 Toyota Camry? He's the control car again. Green flag in the air, and again, he'll make that bit of a move to the bottom. He'll pull up, take the arc into turn number 1. He's clear, leaving the battle behind him for second. Range down on the inside of Heitman.
So now I think it's fair to say that's probably an intended move, right? Now we've seen it happen twice in a row. The same kind of move. It's unlikely it's a tire spin same manner. So it's very apparent to us that that's oh my gosh, that's a hard wall hit. Caution, contact, maybe
what
not
a save.
Grass cutting, and everybody's good. I thought for sure we were coming to a caution. Wow, that was Jaden Hopp in the 13. I believe I saw up involved in that, and many more. But here we are in turn 3, and everyone's still alive.
Yeah, they tried to wreck a couple times, and then Nanny threw a heck of a block that put the number 7 to machine a ball frame in the fence. Now, finally, we've run out of them. Spinner in turn number 3. Joseph Cozy is one of the drivers around. I think it was Cozy in the 19. Gabriel Pellegrino. And we are now squarely, I think, in the cautions breed, cautions range late in this race. Aggressiveness on restarts, and that is the expected result.
Yep, unfortunately, that is the expected result. And for many drivers, it was the inevitable result, right? I mean, when you start doing it out in turn 2, watch this, watch the cars here coming through the corner. And this will be where the caution happens right there. Just probably a mix of not clear if we saw it from a different camera angle, and both cars up on track, and everyone avoids for the most part. But boy, that mess, watch here real quick. See the green car. I think the 30 maybe moved down a little bit in fear of that red car, and then just kind of caught the car below him. But boy, I mean, this all started, as you said, back out of turn 2 when, I mean, Jaden Hopp and others were sideways and whatever which ways you want to call it, and they all saved it. I think everyone just started to kind of breathe and relax, and then the caution finally came out for this wreck right here.
Yeah, it was a matter of time, and I think that's kind of 2 lanes that turned into 3, right? I don't know if he was spooked by maybe the 7 getting into the wall, or he was just trying to get around Borborema, but that 7 was off pace. The 30 clearly goes low to pass him, but the 19's not thinking we're 3 wide. The 19's thinking we're 2 wide, and ends up coming up into the 30 car. It's about as soft of an accident as you can get, and more decisions of the pit lane entry. We have seen cars come for fuel the last 2 straight times. This time it is the heavy hitters. Conklin is in, Heitman is in, and more. And Jaden Hopp, who was down pit road 2 cautions ago, will cycle through and lead this Brickyard 400 for the first time.
Well, I started to say it was everybody, and then you're right. I looked up and realized that Jaden Hopp had not come down here. There's a speeding penalty right there. That's going to be Andrew Dyson. He'll have likely a speeding penalty. Let's watch this here. By the way, this is Richard Garcia. And watch how this happens. One car moves off the wall. There's a bit of contact with Garcia in the 5, and then it just broke loose back there for a moment, and everyone was everywhere, and somehow they all got it gathered together off of pit road. No surprise who wins. It's the 1 car. And we'll see that battle happen here. Everyone's going to come down. Remember, Evan, in NASCAR rules and in the Brickyard 400 rules, you do not have to use the access road in. You do have to use the access road out. So everyone's going to come around that access road here, and that's always one of the few differences in rules, depending upon which cars you're driving. And and I guess in iRacing, maybe it's always no in but out on the access roads, come to think of it. But that's always a common question you get when we come here, right, is which access roads do I use? And we have many different forms of that across iRacing. You know, the Homestead Miami Speedway has the access roads, and it's always a weird set of rules have to learn track by track.
It seems, I think you're right on the trends on it. It seems to be kind of freebie in, and then you have to stay on the lane out. I think it's easier to control the outward part because it can make those blue exit cones wherever you want to blend it back up onto the racetrack, whereas the pit lane entry cones are there. But I think the only way for iRacing to enforce people going to that access road in 3 and 4 would be to put the pit lane entry cones there, and obviously that's not a speed restricted area of the racetrack. Zach Range is the first car off of pit road of those who pitted. So Sean Conklin, in his own strategy bubble, was not the fastest car onto pit road. So the first car off of pit road looks like Kagan Fleckenstein's got a black flag. That car's going to drop to the back and give up positions. Even the best car of the night, Conklin's 5th best in his own strategy right now. And this is our first real, I'm not going to say strategy move, but this is really the first chance where we've actually seen strategy flip this race on its head. For the most part, the dominant cars have remained dominant cars, but Sean Conklin, leader of 62 laps tonight, is going to restart in 17th. He has not dealt with anything like that so far tonight. And Dallas Pataska has seemingly, Derek, time after time, been on the wrong side of a strategy decision. He's now P2. Jaden Hopp has been pretty quiet, but up in the mix all night. The 13's now leading this race. You got Vinicius Burin, in 3rd. Justin Levine 4th. Evan Say in the number 5 spot. I mean, this is a big opportunity for some of these drivers to make it work. And there's not a lot of tire difference between all of these groups. Most of the jockeying has been for fuel, which we won't know who made the right call until we're 38 laps from now.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm excited for this, man. I get to watch Jaden Hopp race most weeks and in different leagues, including the High Tide Racing League, and get to watch their body of work. And Jaden is a good, clean racer, but he's aggressive. He's on top of it. He's going to make someone work for the passes. So I'm excited to see this work out here. It's Hopp, it's Pataska, and more on back. By the way, if you think this looks fun, not only in the iRacing world, but hey, remember they just had that release date or announced date for the NASCAR 25 video game. So even on console soon, you'll likely be able to do your own Brickyard 400.
It's going to be fun. Teaser came out, a lot of chatter on social media. Excited to see that product that'll be coming to consoles soon and PC shortly thereafter. Here we go. Is this the magic final restart? The trends would suggest we're not done with these yet. But with 38 laps to go, we look to the flag stand, and Jaden Hopp controls the field at Indianapolis.
Boy, look at that 3 of Justin Levine. He quickly got to the inside cars, trying to find every bit of position they can. Now here with, as you said, less than 38 to go, you have to start making moves because every caution just eats away those number of laps. You have to make moves quickly and decisively. And speaking of cautions, one in the back, and I believe, is that Schwartz, I believe, for the red in the back? It is Schwartz.
Yep, John Schwartz.
That's about the 2nd or 3rd time he's been involved in one of our yellows tonight. And, well, short term, that paid off for Jaden Hopp. He's still leading. So good news for him. But we'll wait and see what happened to John Schwartz here. Well, Evan, as I said under green a second ago, now the pressure kicks in, right? Because now every caution we have is just a little bit closer to the end we get. Oh, Schwartz just got wildly up the hill by himself. No,
I think that was on his own.
Lost the car.
Let's see. Here's a tighter angle.
Is it just bad arrow? And there's clear right there, and then the car wiggled, and up the hill it went. What's that song, Running Up the Hill? Well, that's what John Schwartz just did.
It's a great song, by the way, but if John Schwartz was listening to it, not the one he listens to. Let's look off of the back. Is there contact with the 22? I don't see it. I think that car is just kind of up high. I'm not going to call it no man's land, but he certainly does take a big swing low. We're coming off of a restart. You got cold tires, and for John Schwartz, the car got loose into the outside wall. Very fortunate that was not a reenactment of the wreck we had in turn 2 about 10-15 laps ago, because he was sideways in front of a 3-wide battle, and somehow that ends with only Schwartz's car in the outside wall. I know that's not a silver lining for the 25 team, but could have been a lot worse. And will slow the pace down, and in a field that is very fuel conscious at the moment, that'll take 3-4 green flag laps off of the table.
Yep, it certainly will, and that's what I was talking about earlier. And it's now why everyone's going to get a little bit more pressured, a little bit more anxious, and go a little harder. I was thinking in my head, and it's not a rhetorical question, maybe it's more of a bad pun, but if John Schwartz was listening to that song, Running Up That Hill, or Running Up the Hill, you suppose in his mind it would be a hit?
I had that song, like I think most people, right?
Right.
Stranger Things, right? That
Yep.
I had that on repeat for about a year and a half. Not in the context of running my car up the hill into the safer barrier. I don't think that's the message that I took away from it. But aside from that, I think it can be a good song.
I more so meant his car hit the wall, it'd be a hit. But yeah, if I had to explain the joke, it's probably not funny. Yeah,
it was an attempt.
We'll move on. It was a bad attempt, but it was an attempt.
Like the restart, not a good attempt.
Yeah, not really, no. So here we are now working lap 125 of 160. Now we're getting to that point, Evan. Now, let's forget the fact that there could be overtime. Lap by lap of caution, we're getting closer and closer, where you could probably come down pit road maybe next caution, I think. And you could be good. Remember, we had all those talks about how many pit stops were left. Was it 1? Was it 2? Was it 2.5? Well, probably one caution from now. If there is another caution, you could come down pit road and probably be good. I mean, look how slowly these cars are going. I feel like some of these cars already are trying to kind of save fuel. They're kind of just not on top of one another. There's some big gaps between them. There's already a little bit of fuel saving
they're
happening
clutching
here.
and coasting. Jaden Hopp's car
100%.
was off for a significant part of that lap. The car, I believe, is currently turned off.
Yeah, heck, if Hop could somehow get that second place car to push him around, he'd be even happier so he could burn less gas here at the track. But yeah, this is going to get interesting now, how far around we can go and who pits when. And now it's turned from who's ahead on the strategy to, well, when can I pit and be good? The question has changed. Oh, there's a look at our pace car driver.
There you go.
Do we have a name for him? Yeah.
I don't know if the pace car driver has a name. Everybody knows that Barney's the flag man.
Right.
I don't know if we have a name for the pace car driver. If not, I feel like as a community, that's something we should get behind.
That is something we should get behind. We'll think about that and work on that. And I think this is my first time seeing a pace car driver, Kim. Look how calm and collected he is. He's locked in. He's just sitting there, focused, eyes forward, and just kind of no emotion right there, just stone-faced right there for the pace car driver.
That would be a really cool perspective, right? I know I probably have to, star in a Hollywood movie that makes $1 billion to get invited to do it. But, you see celebrities do the pace car ride along or actually get to drive the pace car. That would be that'd be a top 5 moment. That seems like such a cool, that's a cool job. Here's a question for you. We're coming to the arena next time by. If you were a NASCAR official and you could pick any role on the racetrack, what would you pick? And I think it's a toss up for me between in the flag stand. I think pace car is very clearly in my number 1 power rankings for coolest NASCAR official jobs.
I'll tell you right now, I have a fear of height, so it's not going to be the flag stand. That's not going to happen. Pace car driver is definitely up there. I probably would enjoy being the guy up in the tower pushing the buttons to put the caution out. That would be fun. By the way, speaking of cool things and celebrities, of course, not in iRacing this weekend, but in real life, you and I talked about pre-show. The Grand Marshal for the Brickyard 400 this weekend is Cookie Monster.
I did see that.
Yeah, that's going to be fun to see how he's going to do the driver start your engines command and all that. Probably with a mouthful of cookies, I'm guessing, right?
I'm excited to see how that happens. And do you think he's going to be at the track, or is he going to call in from his home, right, on the normal set?
If he's not at the track, that's a disappointment. I'm just saying.
Right. I feel like he's got to be there on the front straightaway.
Yeah.
That'll be exciting. Of course, the Brickyard 400 this Sunday. Going to be exciting to watch that one. In the meantime, we've got a couple of iRacing Brickyard 400s to hand out some checkered flags to. It includes Tonight's top split, which has 34 laps to go, we're back underway. Bit of a checkup from row 2 on back on the outside. Jaden Hopp defends the race lead. You're on board with Dallas Pataska to the inside on Vinicius Burin. For second, he gets clear. Caution, there's trouble behind. Into the outside wall is Sean Anderson, who slides to a stop.
Yep. There we go. This is that cautions breed cautions. I said it earlier, and that's how it's starting to feel, right? We had overall a really great run for the past first 100 laps. Yeah, a few cautions sprinkled in, but boy, towards the end, this is getting a little messy, a little sloppy, a little wild is this race. Now, I think this is the caution where things open up. Evan, we'll talk about that in a minute. First, let's watch this restart. Watch the middle to the back of your screen. Right there up top, there's the car spinning around, and cautions up.
Yeah, I think that's, we've talked about give or take and moves that, do they have to happen at this point, and, putting drivers in an uncomfortable spot. There was some sort of a checkup into one that made that opportunity there, but I think that's a move that doesn't have to happen. If I'm the 10 car on the bottom, I don't see what entering with the left side tires on the grass is going to do any good for.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. By the way, a comment from the YouTube chat. From Twitch chat, pardon me. I'm not sure if I'm on board with this, but Logan Helton suggests that if we were to name the pace car driver, it has to be a character name from the TV show Barney and Friends because of Barney the Flagman.
Okay.
I'm going to say right now,
I could get on board with that lore. I feel like that'd be a fun tie-in.
I proudly can tell you I don't remember any of the kids' names from Barney and Friends.
I know Selena Gomez was on it. Selena Gomez was on it as one of the human characters on Barney.
Human characters.
I like
watch this.
BJ was one of the dinosaurs, right? I'm a big dinosaur guy. I think BJ was one of the dinosaurs.
Yeah, I think so. We're look right in front of Derek Heitman here. This felt like a dinosaur-sized wreck happening in front of him. He could not avoid this when had two cars spinning up in front. But overall, a little bit of front-end damage, which will hurt at Indianapolis. You're not going to get away from that unscathed. But it could have been about 100 times worse for Derek Heitman and the rest of the field on back. So, I'm not against this Barney and Friends lore, but I can proudly tell you I don't know enough of it to engage in this conversation.
As somebody who, as a child, went to see Barney live at the Sky Dome in Toronto, I can very much get on board with like this secret little nuance and lore that we're creating.
There are things in life that I am proud of, and I would admit in this broadcast. I don't know that going to go see Barney and Friends in the Sky Dome as a child would be on my list.
It's a core Canadian memory right there.
All right, fair enough. Well, boy, oh boy, this is wrapping up pretty quickly here. We're getting ready to approach the lap 130's time by. There goes your lucky dog on around that free pass car. We get to go and get a lap back on the field here. And well, Jaden Hopp, has done a great job. If that strategy has led ever since he stayed out. But, none of those cars right there, Jaden Hopp, Dallas Pataska, on back down, I would suspect, through, I don't know, maybe our most recent pit stops back on P23, Derek Heitman. All those cars up front, I cannot see a way where they're good on gas. So they're going to have to stop eventually. I guess they're hoping up front you get enough cautions that you do go that far. But that's going to be a lot of cautions to make that play happen.
Yeah, I think we've to your point on, is this the moment? There's a couple of cars that pit. I think this is mostly for damage. I think the caution 2 cautions ago was when we hit the point on we're good on fuel. And that's not because I have some sort of ability to do the math. I'm just taking the driver's word for it, and the fact that we had a dozen cars pitting every single caution up until the one before this. There were 2 or 3, and that's what tells me they feel like, all right, the way this is going to play out 2 cautions ago was kind of that moment where we established with the cautions we're expecting to have, we're going to go on fuel to the end. What that does not do, though, is close the strategy discussion entirely. Because if this race, we're going to have a restart with 30 laps to go. If we go 15 laps and have a caution, everyone's going to be good on fuel, theoretically. And I bet we're still going to have people come down pit road, because then the conversation is going to shift to a tire decision instead of a fuel decision. But if it is a constant start, stop, I think the strategy's done. I don't think if we're getting, 2 corners, 1 corner at a time, that I would want to pit from a top 10 spot, go back to 25th, and then try to pick my way through the field. I would not have the confidence that we're going to have the green flag laps to do it.
That would be my concern as well. I'm 100% on board. By the way, comments from the chat said that the pace car driver's name should have been Riff, who apparently was a character in Barney and Friends. I did not remember Riff, and I did a quick Google image search. Ooh, buddy. Oh, I'm awake. That was a scary-looking dinosaur. That's all I got to say about that.
That's why did you look up BJ? I thought BJ was a fun dinosaur on that.
Okay, I'll look. It's got to be happier than what Riff was. Just a bright orange dinosaur with a scary smile. Oh boy.
BJ's a pretty generic. That's a relatively common name. I kind of like Riff though. Like Riff is. It's kind of got some that could be like a Carolina name, like NASCAR. NASCAR
image search
country.
Riff. You will not like it as much as you think. I'll tell you that.
I think that could work. We'll talk to the powers that be.
You're the voice of eNASCAR. You can make
just
this
will it into existence.
You want it to. Yeah.
Yeah. Just gaslight everybody and just go with it.
Just say it next time on the broadcast. Don't even question to say, "Hey, that's Riff, the pace car driver," and just see if you can get your color guys to go along with you and just pretend like that's the thing. You
never know. But Billy Joe apparently is what BJ's character name was on, which is also that could work for a Carolina name for where NASCAR obviously has its roots. Well, let's see. 30 laps to go this time by. We think we're good on a fuel. Jaden Hopp has assumed the lead. Dallas Pataska's second. Don't look now, but Sean Conklin is all the way up to P11. Green flag flies. We're back underway. That's probably the best restart we've seen from Hopp thus far. 3 wide, back at about 15th spot and more. 2 wide through the top 10 is on the outside of turn 1. Dallas Pataska clear of Vinicius Burin in a defensive P2.
Oh boy, look at how much this is getting busy towards the middle of the field here. Oh, there's a wall hit. There's a car around. Caution's going to come out once again. 2, 3, 4 cars involved right in the middle of the back straight in Indianapolis.
Zach Range, the 24, skids to a stop. He's involved. Chad Genigsman also is backwards and facing the wrong direction in the number 29 machine. It is at least a 2-car accident off of turn number 2 that will lead to this one. We'll wait to scrub the tape back and see what happened to Genigsman. That's that white and red 29 up top and just kind of got out in no man's land. They're too wide, but Chad was pretty clearly about a lane and a half up from the other cars on the outside and just hit the fence off the corner. Nothing the 24 machine could have done. Zach Range gets spun out, no fault of his own in that one. And Paul Hill had a heck of a view. I think Hill's got some right front damage in this one, but it could have been a lot worse as he was right there in front of it also.
Well, remember we talked about, 100 laps ago when we said, hey, that wall, drivers are flirting with it all night long. They were scrubbing it, and it was looking kind of scary. And I said at some point it's going to bite someone. At some point that wall is going to get tired of being hit, and it's going to kind of fight back. Well, that may be the best example so far of that wall fighting back and kind of getting this little pound of flesh. Watch it again. There's the car up in the wall, even back through the short chute. And then as we're right on board with Paul Hill, watch this car up ahead, in the wall, around. Wow, I know Paul Hill hit the first time, but that's great avoidance the second time by Paul Hill in that Red Bull machine to get on around.
It's going to be some right front damage, no doubt, but could be a lot worse. And as the YouTube chat debates if it's going to be Riff or if it's going to be VJ, our pace car driver, they're leading a lot of laps recently. Derek, obviously, this is not the first time slot for this event over the course of the week, and you did some research before we came into this on kind of what average caution counts and stuff we've been seeing. Let's take a peek at Derek Heitman's perspective of this one. He's going to be on the inside of where the chaos starts. He sees smoke, goes low, and ends up 3 4 wide. He probably picked up 3 or 4 spots in all of that, but
his spotter picked up a few gray hairs is what got picked up right there in that moment. Oh, buddy. I mean, even after the wreck, that's a tight one. You're right. We did talk about cautions in the other splits. Unfortunately, from what I could find, no split has had less than 10 so far this week. The average is up in the high teens. So, yeah, I think we're quickly approaching that number as the laps go on, Evan.
And it seems like late in this race, it's going to be difficult to get out of this rut, we'll call it. And it's an analogy I always use. So if you've joined us on these before, you'll probably be tired of hearing it, but I always refer to it as the self-fulfilling prophecy. The drivers are the one frustrated with it, obviously, right? I mean, they'd rather be racing under green, but the drivers are the problem in and of itself. And it's because it's late in the race. Now's go time. And if you've got 60 laps to go, you're going to have quite a bit of incentive, right, Derek, to be aggressive and move. Well, the problem is, if you're aggressive, someone's going to cause an accident. Well, then when you restart, you're going to have 55 laps to go. And I'm going to be more aggressive with 55 to go than 60. So what happens? Somebody drives aggressive, makes a mistake, and it just continuously happens. So it's easy for the drivers to get frustrated and say, okay, can we get some green flag laps in? But the problem is the cautions breeding the cautions. That's not just a catchy slogan. The reason there's yellows is because of the yellow before it, and it just continues to happen. It's just hard to break out of that. That's not exclusive to Indianapolis. You'll see that in any race. You get cautions late in the race. It's just difficult to get those, we'll call it 5-10 laps under our belts needed to get the space between the cars to avoid those kind of incidents.
Well, that's not exclusive to NASCAR, but it means, right, that caution, breeding cautions, no matter what style of racing you're watching, IndyCar, I mean, heck, even IMSA, right? You'll see a lot of times once a full track caution happens in an IMSA race, such as the Rolex 24, you're always nervous about that second one happening so soon when everyone's bundled back together here. So, got to keep that in mind. I'll tell you what, the field, Evan, they're starting to get a little antsy, a little stir crazy. Derek Heitman was just recanting to his competitors the things we could be doing right now if we had not been having all these yellow flags. He said, we could already be out celebrating, we could having dinner, we could be, playing games. He's just trying to keep himself entertained now, as I think now, after caution after caution after caution, the field is getting a little stir crazy.
They are. I mean, we had a pretty good pace in this race. I mentioned with about, I think it was 2 hours and 7 minutes or so since the drop of the green flag. We were at the 2/3 distance marker, and that was only 20 or so laps ago in this race. So certainly the middle portion of this race, we never got all the way to green flag pit service. And again, because we're all good on fuel number, that will solidify that we will not have a full cycle of green flag pit stops in this race. But we did it a couple of times, get to the point where some cars were pitting. It was certainly not at the fuel number and a little bit shy. But this race has had 20 lap green flag runs a couple of times, a 30 or a 35 here or there. But we had great pace through the second half of the race. And again, all it takes is any yellow in the past halfway, close to the 2/3 or 3/4 distance marker, and you're going to be dealing with this. Again, every time you get a caution, take about 4 laps off the board. So the next restart's going to be, last one was at 30 to go. This one's going to be at 26 laps to go. Jaden Hopp, I'm not going to say has been uncontested up front because he has had to nail the restarts. But he has not have to complete a full lap and a half, right, up front. So he has led 14 laps since he assumed the number 1 position when Sean Conklin and others pitted. Sean Conklin, who has been the best car tonight, continues to pick up spots. He's all the way up to position number 10 now, but would love some green flag laps to be able to get to the leaders. Hop on the inside, Pataska on the outside of the front row. 26 laps to go at Indianapolis. Green flag back in the air. We're already going 3 wide. Galata gets blocked. Galata sideways on the front stretch. Big puff of smoke. 3 and 4 wide. Do they get through the corner?
I think they do. They've got it mostly worked out. A big, wild slide right there for that car, but all is good. Hop still up in the lead ahead of Dallas Pataska, now out of turn number 2. And now the moves are going to begin. There's the way to the grass, almost Tony Kanaan style in the Indy 500 a couple years ago. Down to the grass is that black and yellow machine. They're going to be 3 wide, Evan. This may not work out well.
They're 3 wide, and behind them, the 3 wide wreck-it in turn number 3. Newman's into the outside wall. Woo. That car stays straight. No caution, we stay green. Brad Newman into the outside wall, a top 12 car. Going to be taken out of contention, but we are not done yet. Look at this battle down the front stretch, all the way to the pit road wall and back. It's Garcia on the inside of Burren. That one's for P5. Garcia makes the move on the bottom. Behind them, here comes Conklin, the 1 car, aggressive on the outside, but cannot clear Tanner Love.
And all this movement, all this snaking. Everything that's happening is bad news for the one car. The caution's out again, so we'll come back to that story. Back of the field, you see some smoke puffing up there. A car turn around sideways. I think that's the Red Bull machine back there. And
Paul
we'll wait
Hill.
and see what caused that. Paul Hill, yep. And the wall started sideways, backwards. And I have to think right now, Evan, I have to be honest, this is the caution right here. With your Jaden Hopp, Pataska, Justin Levine, who all pitted around in lap 117, you have to come this time. You have to do it. Any later, and you keep running the risk of not having enough time to get back to the field. I'm sorry to say, I don't see a world where any of them make it on fuel. They have to stop eventually. Watch the replay, though. Paul Hill. I can't tell if he got help or if that car just kind of wiggled loose, Evan.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think that's in the bucket of that move doesn't happen if it's not in the final 30 laps of the race. I think it's a bit of both, right? Paul Hill was behind a battle. Brandon Six and Jared Borborem over side by side, and Hill either got loose and spun out or tried to make a very aggressive dive to go 3 wide off the corner and turned himself across the nose of Landon Moody. The margin's very tight on that. If that's the 9 trying to slice in between 2 cars, let's see Moody's perspective. So the car you're looking for is the Red Bull number 9. It looks like the 9's trying to cut across his nose to get inside of the 7. Again, you're not making that move any other time except for the final 30, and that's drivers late in the race making the move even if they're not clear.
Agreed. Yep, 100%. Well, here we come on around, and we'll see what happens this time by. There's Jaden Hopp, your race leader. It's led a good number of laps, and is he going to come this time by? I guess
I think
not.
At this point they've got to be committed to staying out with all the yellows they've had. But
you're going to run out of gas.
There might be a taker there. Let's see. No,
that's
they pitted 24 ago. You're trying to get a 48 number. That's a big number,
right?
But if it's all under yellow, you burn about what, half the amount of fuel under caution is under green. So
roughly.
There's some green flag laps in there, right? But let's just make the math easy. If 35 is your number and you run almost all of it under yellow, the number turns into 70. I think everybody's good on fuel, or if they're not, you've got to commit to it. I mean, Pataska, 21 laps since he last pitted. I think that's plausible. Hopp is a bit of a difference maker, right? Hopp does have 4 more laps burned on fuel than anybody else, so that is a bit different for the 13, but I think at this point you're either committed to it or you know you're good.
So the devil's advocate argument here, why you don't want to pit, though, which I understand, is everything, if you're Jaden Hopp, everything happens behind you, right? Every caution's happened behind you. If you're Dallas Pataska, maybe even Justin Levine, these wrecks are happening behind you. The last thing you want to do is pit and then be back there in the middle of the hornet's nest, right? You sort of give up the throne of leading, and the next thing you know, you find yourself involved in the next wreck, and you're trying to time it out correctly, and you're trying to make sure you don't get involved. I'll be stunned. All this will take is one good 5-10 lap green flag run, even just that short of a run, and it will probably ruin their fuel strategies here, I think. So we'll wait and see how this works out and what happens here. And as you said, these guys are clutching, they're coasting, they're whatever they can do to burn as little fuel as possible. Well, Evan, here we are, come up close to 20 laps to go, and this has just turned into a caution fest.
It has, and I think another argument for not wanting to go, I mean, more cars pitted, right? So we had Cox, Anderson, Heitman, Freeman, Six, Dyson. I mean, plenty of cars came down and pitted there. Some of them for damage repair. I'm sure all of them taking fuel just because, in case you need something for overtime. And then, of course, tires is in that conversation also. But Sean Conklin, right, was the top dog in this race until he decided to come down pit road. And when he came down pit road for service, gave up the track position that was so precious to him. And I'm trying to find the number so I can quote it correctly. He came back out in 22nd position. Mm-hmm. He has made his way all the way up to 9th. That is good progression. But I'm not convinced that he passed, call it 13 cars or whatever the number is. I don't think he passed them on the racetrack. I think a lot of those spots have been gained because people in front of him have also been coming back down. So unless I'm reading this wrong and a bunch of cars in the top 10 are going to pit all of a sudden for some reason, I have not seen Conklin, who has been a dominant car tonight, be able to make moves through the field with such short runs. I would not want to go back from P5. I don't think there's enough green. Even if you went back there with 4 tires and you had 25 lap better tires, I just don't think we're getting the green flag laps necessary to do anything with them to want to pit.
But the flip side of that Conklin argument, though, is he's not. I think since he pitted, we've not done a full lap under green. So you're right how he's not passing under green, but the opportunity hasn't really presented itself yet. So the test, the exam, the litmus test of that call will be if we get even a 5-lap run. What does Conklin do with it? How good are those tires, and how well can he manage that? Because when you're right, he hasn't passed anyone under green, but the other question is, when has he had a chance to pass someone under green? So lots of questions. I could be wrong. I know a couple of Twitch chat users are saying, why pit here? I'm concerned about gas. That's my only concern for Jaden Hopp, for Dallas Pataska, for Justin Levine. You work this hard all night long. You don't want to run it out of gas in that moment. So we'll come around here, about 20-some laps to go, Evan. Jaden Hopp leads. Again, it's been about 30 laps or so since he took the lead, so he's enjoyed the view out front.
He has. If he can stay up there through the end of the race, he could get as high as the second most laps led in this race. It's going to be the 20th lap of the race that he leads. This time by, it is a restart with 21 laps to go.
Green flag.
Here in Indianapolis. Green flag flies. Back underway we go. Who's going to be the one to make the moves into one? A couple of drivers trying to go 3 wide. The one car, Conklin, loses 2 spots on the restart that time as Hopp is clear for the race lead. On board in the Hornet's Nest. Behind the 15, that's the perspective of J.R. Borborema. 3 wide in front of him now. The 26 Carl Wiles losing a ton of speed.
That Dr. Pepper car squeezed in that hole and maybe scrubbed the wall, but got it worked out. Barberina now is going to be up here on the top of the walls. Got the, oh boy. This is getting wilder and wilder as the night goes on. And so far, we're going to stay green here, at least possibly for a full lap. Jaden Hopp has got a nice little jump right here. But now we're going to start to see if this thing spreads out for a couple of laps. We might be able to keep it green. What can happen? Everyone snakes out of turn 4, Evan. Lots of movement, but Hopp leads a lap under green.
He does lead a lap under green, and side by side, going to be a battle for the number 11 of Garcia, the number 2 Machina Galata for 5th and 6th on the racetrack. Galata on the outside line, trying to go the long way around. Richard Garcia for a top 5 spot. Can't stay in the gas. Drives it into the outside wall.
Ow.
Too much sauce for the 7. Here comes Vinicius Burren. He'll choose to the outside, give a big shot to the 2. All the momentum that Galata lost gets picked back up there in the bump from the 31, and somehow in the end he'll maintain P5 after he almost binned it off a 2. 3 wide behind them now. It's Causey in the middle, and the one of Sean Conklin, a 2-for-1 special to take P8 away.
Well, let's keep an eye on that 7 as time goes on. So I bet with that hard hit on that wall, Evan, he might have done some damage that might reflect itself in the next few laps in those times. We'll keep an eye. But Conklin is the story. That's the driver you were using as sort of your measuring stick of when to pit and when not to pit. So Conklin now up to P8. What can he do with that? He's up ahead in that black and blue car. He's up there. But Barberina just barely scrubs the wall. We're all good here. And there's a drafting line down the back straight. Well, if you're a driver now, especially if you're up front, if you're Jaden Hopp, if you're Dallas Pataska, those butterflies have probably turned into like parrots in your stomach with how nervous you're getting.
And these two leaning on each other are going to be Paul Hill in the 9. To the outside, on the bottom is Justin Nanke. That's a battle for, we'll call it about 13th position or so on the racetrack with a big run to the 8 car. Here comes Derek Heitman. 3 wide to the inside, but he does not have the speed. Those other 2 cars side drafting, banging into each other. Now they're 3 wide nose to nose. What a perspective as Daniel Wiles watches on. The 34 Ananke drops out of the middle. He'll slide back into the number 15 spot. Now Heitman is sideways off of turn 2. Can he save the race car? Yes, he does. Great save by Heitman, and we stay green.
Yeah, off the track, so below that white line is off the racing service per iRacing. They will not put the caution out for that. I'm surprised, by the way, that Heitman was not the one who initially backed out of the 3 wide and the 34 was. I was surprised by a lot of that particular moment right there and see what happened. But now here we are, green still. This is our best run in a while, and now a lot of factors start to kind of rear its ugly head around. Who's more confident in gas? Who's more confident in tires? The more we stay green here, we're going to see certain drivers kind of rise and fall up and down the field. Here we go out of turn 1, riding on board right behind the 22 car. This is Chad Ginnigsman, and he's going to do pretty well here. Gets up against the wall, and does he move down for the run? Yep, he does. He'll also be down below 24.
And this is the danger zone that if you want green flag laps, you don't want to be watching this battle. Back in the high teens, aggressive racing. There they go. Ginnigsman's around into the outside wall. Does he spin? It never goes around, but it is enough for the caution flag to fly. It was McGuire. Maggie McGuire spins on the apron. That is likely where the caution comes from, as she tried to go low to avoid the wreck. Turned across the nose of Sean Anderson. And I said if you wanted green flag racing, that battle should make you nervous. That is why it was only a matter of time the way they were going at each other.
Yeah, that felt that way, didn't it? This kind of kept growing, and the tension kept rising, and more of a hornet's nest and all those things. Well, here we are again, now working lap 145 of 160. Now I'm curious what those green flag laps did to the confidence of some drivers. Watch the battle again here. There's the bump from the inside. The car goes up the track. There's more cars on the bottom spinning around. 3 or 4 cars involved in this wreck, Evan.
Yeah, and there's the 2 wrecks, right? There's the one up against the outside wall, which I don't think in the end is the cause of the caution, and then it's Maggie on the bottom just trying to avoid those guys wrecking, right. Which actually spins the car all the way around and is more likely the requisite to formally be the caution. It is worth noting, you did say Sean Conklin, the fresh tires, he needed some laps to do it. He lost 2 spots on the restart, fell from 9th to 11th, and then drove past 5 cars. He's up in the number 6 position. This time into the yellow might actually be good for him because he got a bunch of spots, and then just as they were starting to spread out, catches the yellow. So I'm not convinced this is bad news. Who takes? Couple of drivers faking. Does anybody actually dare to pit as we close it on 15 laps to go? No surprise, you're locked in. If you're a top 20 car, you are not coming down pit road. First taker is going to be from 19th, Landon Moody.
All right, I give in. You're probably right. As much as I don't get it, I think you're right. I think you're right. Unless we get to a situation where they're out of gas or staring overtime in the face, it does seem like these guys are locked in. The math is crazy, though. I mean, again, Jaden Hopp pitted lap 113. Let's watch this wreck again one more time. We'll come back to that point in a second here. And Pellegrino's just going to barely avoid the first one. Oh,
got around both.
If they'd have wrapped that car one more time with that Logitech painting wrap this morning, he might have been involved in that wreck up top. That's how close it was here. But Jaden Hopp, last pit at lap 113. We're now working lap 145. That's 32 laps already. And that's not counting the rest of this race. So, yeah, this is going to get close. I thought for sure they would have had to have come pit by now, or they would be fearful of just running out, but they seem to be committed to the whole thing.
Committed to the bit at this point. Next restart going to be right on the cusp of the final 10 laps of this race. I already see a bunch of people in the live chat hypothesizing who they think's in the right position, who they think's going to win. If you haven't joined in on the conversation, I'd encourage you to let us know what you think is going to end in this race, who you're liking. Do you think Jaden Hopp's going to win it? And he's led the last 26 laps consecutively. Dallas Pataska's been all over the board on strategy, but he led 28 laps earlier in the race by doing so. He's been P2 for much of the late race part of this run. Is he going to be able to steal it? What about Justin Levine, Evan C.? Others have not led any laps, but have been top 10, top 5 cars for much of this. Can there be something out of the 3 or the 12? And then you got Joseph Galata and Sean Conklin, P5 and 6. They're going to line up on a number 3. Galata's led 25. Conklin was the dominant car, leading 62 until he decided to make his trip down to the pit lane to get the fuel necessary to go the distance, and has been slowly but surely trying to fight his way through since that point.
All right, well, let's do it. Let's put each other on the spot here with about 15 or so laps to go. Putting on the spot right now, Evan Basoko. Who wins the Brickyard 400?
Oh, this is a tricky one. It's hard to bet against Hop because Hop has looked good on the short runs and the long runs, but it just seems like Dallas Pataska is going to find a way to win this race.
Ooh, okay. Well, I think the easy answer is a hop, skip, and a jump away. I think it's Sean Conklin. I think we saw that restart, what he's able to do with those tires. As time goes on, that confidence he has to push on the gas pedal and those new tires will work out well. I believe Sean Conklin finds his way to the front before the checkered flag falls from Barney the Flagman.
I see some takes in chat thinking that Justin Levine's got an opportunity to win this. I see some Dallas Pataskas in there. Surprised not seeing that many Jaden Hops, but again, that car's been really strong. He's been the control machine. Obviously, a lot of people have been following Sean Conklin back through the field after the number one driver, based on iRating in this race, had dominated. Row 3 is the closest he's been, so I think much like our predictions, our chat is also all over the board on this one.
Yep, I would agree with that. So, again, we're now in go time. We're not getting close to go time, but we're in go time. Every restart for now, you have to make something happen because you don't know how many more chances you're going to get, if it's going to say green, if it's not, and what's going to happen around this famous, historic racetrack, 2.5 miles around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Let me tell you something, Evan. I always say when you're a kid, you dream about sports moments. If you're a football fan, it's throwing the touchdown in the Super Bowl. If whatever it is, World Series Game 7. But for a NASCAR and a motorsports fan, winning at Indianapolis, top of the list.
36 drivers entered this race with that goal. Only one of them is going to kiss some bricks here tonight. Lucky number 13 laps to go in this race as the 13 of Jaden Hop takes the green flag. Big moves back from row number 4. 2 wide. They'll keep it to 2 for the moment. Maybe some 3 wide with the 15 of Lars Chenoweth. But they're going to get through turns 1 and 2 okay. Up front, Hop clear for the race lead. Here comes Justin Levine to the inside and past Dallas Pataska for P2.
Here comes a bunch of cars making some moves. Our car up on the wall right there. And a bunch happening. There's Pataska down in the bottom, as you talked about. He's going to try and make that move happen, but they're all still close right there. And caution's out again.
Wrecking behind into the outside wall. Bit of a jump scare. That was Richard Garcia. They're still going. That is Andrew Dyson, who wrecked in turn number 4, but that seemingly was well beyond the caution. I don't know if there were 2 pieces to this one. We'll wind it back and try to find out, but
I wonder if he just got pretty excited to check up and slap the brakes too hard. I don't know.
And this one looks like, by the way, it starts way up with the number 11 car. Richard Garcia is the one we saw on the wall. He was the top 10 car. This looks like it starts with him, and then like all good late race Indianapolis wrecks, carries on and carries on. You can see Garcia's going to get it into the longest line penalty. Let's find out what happened. That's Garcia, the black and yellow Chevrolet. He had some help. 30 sent him into the corner, up into the outside wall. Caution's out at that point. And then the 15 machine, JR Borborema, I'm going to say this happens in tandem with it. I don't think this one was really after, but Borborema checks up seeing the wreck. He gets turned by, I think, the 7 car. Borborema, sorry, is the 7, turning Chenoweth. Let's see this one happen. Wrecking in front, checking up. There's a little bit of help. That car goes around. And then there was at least one more. There it is. The grass is what got that 3rd car. Just trying to avoid the wreck, it looked like.
And just maybe getting below that line, a little bit of transition difference, and everything got to him. And you're right, this went on around as that 3rd car. Well, for what was once feeling like a pretty quick pace to a race, Derek Heitman just told the chat and iRacing, we've taken an hour to go 30 laps. So this race has slowed down a little bit here. More cars down pit roads. Maybe some more drivers want to have that peace of mind, that comfort of having enough gas. At this point, though, now this is where I have a problem with it a little bit, Evan, because now we're, 11 to go? We'll probably be 10 to go when this restart happens. Now you're going to have a harder time convincing me that if I took tires right now, that it would matter, because I have to climb through the field, but, I don't know.
Here's another look at the 3 wide moment behind where the
watch this
initial
car on the
wreck
bottom.
was. There's a hit to the outside, too, and then there's the self-spin for Dyson, but somebody else plowed into the 15, too. So there's a handful of cars right there. There's the hit up top,
boy.
cautions out, and then there's Dyson with the quick left-right wheel movement, just trying to get around the wreck. I think he kept it off the wall for all intents and purposes, so that could have been worse. There's the hit there. 15 took a big shot after he was already in the fence.
Yep. So, well, we'll see what happens here. Jaden Hop's still leading. He's been leading for a while now. So, a driver
Justin
who
Levine
took a risk.
P2. That's not looking good for my pick in Pataska, but that 3 car had a great pass on the inside off the restart to get up to second. He hasn't let a lap in this race. He's up 22 spots from where he started on the grid, and now he's going to be on the front row with a chance to win the Brickyard 400.
Well, let me tell you where it is good for your pick in Pataska and why I like where Pataska sits right now. You and I both agree fuel's going to be a question mark here before this race is over. Whether they're good or not, we don't know. They probably don't even know. But if you're Dallas Pataska, what you're going to get to do on this restart and these laps, you're going to get to sit behind someone and use that draft, and you're going to save some fuel. It may not be a lot of fuel, but you may not need to save a lot of fuel. You might only need to save a little bit of fuel. But I like where Pataska is because he's going to get to save a little bit of fuel here on this restart.
Yeah, it's going to be a role reversal to that point, right? Levine had the benefit of lining up behind Hop. That's how Levine was able to get the run on the restart to pass Pataska. It's going to be a trade. Now the Pataska car is going to be in that preferred inside spot on run number 2. You still got to execute. You still got to get off and get the restart needed, but yeah, Levine, it's always so difficult if you're the outside driver on the front row. For whatever reason, triple monitors, looking to your left, having a spotter helping you out, it's just harder from that outside position to go when the leader goes, and it's so much easier if you're the car behind them.
Evan, I'll tell you right there, they tricked me. These front drivers are so excited to go racing. They had lined up double file a lap early, so we came in a turn 4 right there with double file, and I started to kind of wind down the conversation, was ready for you to call the restart. I was like, oh wait, we're still 2 to go.
And we've got some time. Again, it's going to bring us to a restart with 9 laps to go. Again, if you get a caution from that point, then you're looking at a restart at 5 to go, and then anything from that is beyond schedule distance. So I'd say we've got maybe 2 more restarts left in us if this race is going to finish inside of regulation. I know a lot of people in chat talking about tires. That's a loaded question. There's some drivers, leader 38 lap old tires.
Right.
Next 10 drivers, 34 laps old. There's some back in the low teens that are on 20 lap old, 13 lap old, 5 lap old for Sean Anderson. But there is no clear-cut strategy on the tires. Right. A lot of drivers over the course of the last 20 laps, I'll say, on this run have been coming in, topping off, getting tires. But there is no, I think, clear-cut driver to watch for on tires. We've been watching Conklin, but Conklin's on equal tires, if not maybe a little bit better than the cars ahead of him. That car has just been better. He's P6 again. He did not make up any ground on the last restart, so we'll see if Conklin is the man to watch for row number 3. Pace car going to be in. 9 laps to go with an iRacing crown jewel hanging in the balance. Jaden Hop has led 31 laps straight. He needs to get 9 more if he wants to kiss the bricks. Green flag back in the air. It's a great start for the inside. Here comes Pataska.
Oh, boy.
Big block on Sean Conklin.
Here comes a move from the inside. Pataska down to the bottom of Hop, and Hop closed the door pretty quickly. Realized what was about to happen here. Now Hop will get the benefit of the 2 wide racing behind him. He's the only car who gets to race his own line. He'll get a bit of a gap here on the field because as these cars race side by side, they're not making the moves they want to make. There is Sean Conklin, by the way, that
3
one car on the bottom, 3 wide, and this is looking good.
That's the one of Conklin on the bottom. Pataska in the center. Levine to the outside. Hill gets shaken off on the entry to turn number 3. Now Conklin in the 4 of Pataska make contact as they battle for second. Hop is going to pull away up front. Now clear for second. Sean Conklin has fought himself all the way back to the runner-up spot.
Now 1 more car to pass, a little bit newer tires, a little bit more gas. Let's see what happens here with only a few laps left in this race. 2 wide behind us. Now if you're Sean Conklin, this key is you gotta go fast. That sounds simple, right? But it's not, because who knows when that next yellow is. And we're quickly running out of time. They're almost ready to yellow right there, and they save it. But Sean Conklin's closing on Jaden Hop.
And the onboard, the battle continues for third, fourth, and more. The 2-car, that's Joseph Galata trying to make a move on Justin Levine. That pass happens for position number 5. Most of the cars have single filed out now, with the exception of a battle for 9th and 10th. The 34, Ananke, makes a move on the 31 of Burrend. But look at the leader, Jaden Hop, serpentining down the front straightaway, desperately trying to break the toe as Sean Conklin drafts to within striking distance. Conklin has 8-lap better tires than Hop. It was 7 laps to go that time by. Let's go on the 1-car.
Let's watch what's going to happen. See almost identical lines. Maybe Conklin a little deeper in the corner. Conklin a little higher though, got the wall. That'll scrub a minute amount of speed. It'll give Hop a bit of a break here. Now you see the double shots, one from the front on the bottom. That's looking forward to P1. The one on the top is looking back into P2. It's the same race, just different looks. Look how close Conklin gets corner by corner. This race is now Jaden Hop's. He now has to block every move, close every door, and hope he has enough gas.
The gap sits at a car length. Here's the perspective off of the back of the race leader, Jaden Hop. Sean Conklin is there. If you're the one, how strategic can you be? Do you set something up pretty? Do you want to make the pass late so the 13 can't make a counterattack? Or can you not get that pretty with it? Do you have to take whatever you can get? Another run down the back straightaway. The 13 is trying to shake the 1, but it's just not going to happen. Conklin is sucking up all of the draft off of the leader. And don't look now, but Dallas Pataska third, Evan C in fourth. They are slightly faster than the leaders, maybe closing that gap in just a bit. If we see a battle for first and second, watch out for those other 2 cars. But Conklin again off of turn 4, Derek, just too tight in the dirty air, does not get a good run down the front stretch.
Yeah, that's the question I was wondering, man. You said about all those questions, who does what? How dirty is that air is what's in my mind right now, because Conklin got up here but can't seem to do anything with it right now. I'm not sure if he's just being patient and biding his time or what's happening, but I can tell you right now, we're beyond that point of no return. Any caution now takes us into Brickyard 400 overtime. So here they go. Now, right now, the best thing that could happen for our leader, for Jaden Hop, is for Dallas Pataska to catch up. If Dallas Pataska catches up here and creates a 2-wide race with Conklin, Hop could easily pull away here with only a couple laps to go.
Dallas Pataska, second or 10th and a half better than the leader the last time, but they're fighting for third. Oh, there's trouble! Pataska's into the outside wall off of turn number 4. He's going to lose a lot of speed. Evan C goes to third. Galata goes to fourth. Even Justin Levine around him for P5. So a catastrophic lap there drops Pataska to P6.
Wow, that's a blatant hit and an unfortunate hit for Dallas Pataska. And just going to hit really hard here. Just still back to the battle up front. This is the story. Only a couple laps to go. Hop doing everything he can to break that draft, to try to keep Conklin honest, to keep him back there, to keep that car under control. And Hop is doing an amazing job keeping calm, keeping cool, keeping collected. He needs this to stay green, Evan.
And just as the cars third on back looked like they were threatening, the chaos off of 4 last time has taken them back to more than a second off of the race leader. So 2 cars with 3 laps to go in this race. Will this thing finish inside of regulation and at the 400-mile marker? Conklin doing everything he can to get a run on the 13. Look how low he is. Right on the rumble strip, but into the wall again off of 2. Somehow continues to get away with that without scrubbing too much speed, but it is desperation mode for the 1 car trying to find anything that'll work.
Boy, when look at that, how much Conklin makes up in the corner. And I think the battle he's fighting with himself, Evan, is making sure he doesn't gain too much time, making sure he doesn't tap the back of Hop. He does not appear to want to win this race that way. 2 laps to go this time.
You can see the snake is not just amongst the cars in the lead. Everybody on the lead lap continues to dive high and low and chase the draft of the cars in front of them. Evan C in third creeps to within 0.6 of a second of the leaders unless something happens between the top two. Not likely enough pace for him to get there and to be a part of this battle. And look up the road. Lapped traffic on the horizon. It is clear that Conklin is struggling with some dirty air. Will the leader get some dirty air off of the lapped car before this race is done? And will that play into the conversation in the battle for the race win? This time by looking for one lap to go at the Brickyard.
By the way, if we ride on board with P2, watch, I've noticed what Hop is doing. Hop is backing up these corners to mess with Conklin. Watch here in turn one, and I think you'll notice Hop maybe lifts a little bit in that corner to stop Conklin from getting a run. Watch it here. White flag this time by. Watch Hop just kind of plays with the throttle. It's to make sure Conklin doesn't get too big a run.
And that was a bad run off of turn number one for Sean Conklin. You can see the lap traffic up the road. Hop is unlikely to catch that car. Will he feel any of the ill effects? That was Joseph Galata who hit the fence off of 2 and 4th. He's way low, but look at the gap. Sean Conklin, 3 full car lengths off of Jaden Hop. Final 2 corners, clean through turn number 3. Now he's going to have to set it up for a good run off of turn 4. Conklin, the dominant car, cannot find the answer to the riddle in the closing laps. And Jaden Hop is an iRacing Brickyard 400 champion.
Wow, that is impressive. Congratulations, Jaden Hop. You earned that in every way possible. On track, on fuel strategy, in every way possible. Enjoy your victory.
And for all the green flag runs and the caution-filled restarts, in the end of it all, it was the strategy decision by Jaden Hop to pit at 48 laps to go in this race. The only driver who made the caution at 48 laps to go his final pit stop and was able to outlast the challenge from Conklin, all of the restarts, all of the different challengers. He'll go on in the end after being pretty quiet in the opening half of this race to lead the second most laps out of anybody, 41 for Jaden Hop. But of course, the most important one was the end of lap number 160, and a well-deserved celebration is coming up next here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, because Jaden Hop is a top split champion of the iRacing Brickyard 400.
Does he have? Look at this. I was so wrong. I'll own it right now, Evan. The man has enough gas for burnouts. I was scared about fuel mileage. He was not.
48 laps, the number that he's able to go to the end. And how about the burnouts on the bricks to boot? Jaden Hop is celebrating this one against some of iRacing's best. Put on a show tonight, and I think for the rough patch we went through, right, late in this race, a lot of restarts, a lot of short runs, Derek, what a finish to get the green flag laps necessary to see Sean Conklin do everything he could to try to solve the riddle that was Jaden Hop.
He tried so hard, and I think it was a mix of the dirty air, a mix of Hop just being a great racer, so many factors involved, and Conklin tried as hard as he could. So much respect for Sean Conklin for doing it clean, for not getting in the back into Jaden Hop, which I think a lot of drivers would have thought about, and so much respect for Sean Conklin tonight.
What a night. That ends with Jaden Hop in victory lane as we take a look at tonight's iRacing full race results. Hop goes on to victory lane and leads a Toyota 1-2 home here at the World Center, the racing capital of the world, should say. We talk about all the different iconic racetracks. We've been to the World Center of Racing in Daytona. We've been to the Coke 600 and now the Brickyard 400. Conklin could not get a second on the week. He's P2. Evan C., the highest finishing driver to not lead a lap in this race. He almost was a part of that conversation late. Less than a second off of the leaders. Joseph Galata's in the number 4 spot. Justin Levine comes home at 5th with Dallas Pataska, Joseph Causey, Tanner Love, Vinicius Burin, and Justin Nanke, your top 10.
Moving back into P11 is Derek Heitman, and he has Zach Range on behind him with Paul Hill, Sean Anderson, and Brandon Six running your top 15. Then it's Andrew Dyson, Daniel Wiles, Chad Gunningsman, Brad Newman, and Thomas Freeman running out your top 20.
And continuing on through 21st position goes to Landon Moody. Daniel Naney comes home in 22nd. Matt Cox, 23rd. Gabriel Pellegrino is 24th. He'll be the final driver to finish on the lead lap in this one. 2 laps down for Fitzpatrick and Borborema. 3 laps down for Fleckenstein, with Garcia, McGuire, and Chenoweth rounding out your top 30.
Moving back in the last bit of the field, Keegan Sobilo, 20 laps down. Then it's John Schwartz, Charles Wembley, Joshua Lim, Diego Moraes, and Ian Culp rounding out a 36 field.
It is a look top to bottom at your iRacing full race results, as we will put the Brickyard 400 into our rear view mirror, at least for our coverage here, with another special presentation of RaceSpot TV on the iRacing Esports Network. And we are going to try to get a word with some of our top finishers and see if we can chat with them. I think we have our race winner. Let's try to dial him up. Jaden Hopp, you can hear us?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, first off, congratulations as the top split champion of the iRacing Brickyard 400. We'll talk big picture in a moment, but first, just walk us through those final 10 laps or so with Sean Conklin all over the back end trying to find a way by you.
Oh, it was so difficult. I was so nervous. I just gave it the best, 9 laps, I think it was, that I possibly could. And I was able to hold him off. He definitely had me sweating.
So now let's talk big picture. You guys start 11th position in this race. You guys are in a pretty competitive position all the way through. But in the end, you make a pit stop with 48 laps to go. At that point, there was no clear strategy. Gars had pitted in the caution flag before that, and they pitted in pretty much every caution flag after that. Tell us about the decision on when you felt like that was the right moment to pit. And then obviously people kept coming down for tires and fuel behind you, but you guys rode it out to the end. What went behind that?
I've seen how bad dirty air is in this car before in past races. I haven't done any A opens, A fixed, anything. But one of my great friends told me that somebody was able to stay out for 47 laps on a tank of fuel just because of the caution. So I figured, why not? Let's try for, I think I did 48, so about the same. But yeah, that's what went into it. I honestly thought I was going to have to come back down pit road around lap 116 just to make sure. But it worked out in the end.
What does it mean to obviously be at this level, a high level that you're used to competing at here on the sim, but in a top split race on the stream to be able to hold off a guy like Sean who's been able to find success in this race already this week and win yourself a Brickyard 400?
Oh, it means everything. I'm still kind of new. I've been around iRacing for 6 years now, but I'm still pretty new to racing at this level of competition. It's definitely very difficult, very hard to adjust to. So to go out and win this race, it feels amazing.
Well, I know it's a long race that goes late into the night, so we'll let you get out of here and celebrate. But Jada, we've got you. Anybody you want to say hi and thanks to?
I'd like to thank you guys for putting on the podcast, all my friends and family for watching and cheering me on all the time. I'd like to thank all my Nexus teammates back in the Discord for everything. They've been so much help. And I'd like to thank my other teammates over at Tier 1 Setup Shop for helping me helping me with this one. Feels so good to win a race with the setup you've built yourself.
Makes it that much more rewarding as a open top split race winner. Jaden, we saw a lot of support for you in the chat. Again, congratulations on the win.
Thank you very much. I hope to be back here one day.
He's your top split winner tonight in the iRacing to Brickyard 400, and well-deserved for the driver of the number 13 machine. That was Jaden Hopp. We'll continue on with our post-race interviews. I believe, Derek, you're stood up with tonight's follow-up runner-up, and that'll be Sean Conklin comes home P2.
Yeah, we're going to catch up with Sean Conklin. And boy, I tell you, we could hear the exhaustion in Jaden Hopp's voice. And Sean, I'm curious, exhausted, tired, are those words that also describe you after this long Brickyard 400?
Oh, I'm tired of dirty air, man.
I bet you are.
Yeah, no. Definitely sucks, come up one spot short like that. I think we definitely had the pace. It's just I tried everything, backing it up, sending it in deep. Just, you can't escape it. The only way to escape it is to go lower, but when you go lower, you just choke your exit off and car just goes straight. So there's just nothing you can do. Just kind of stuck there, trying your best, hoping the car in front of you makes a mistake. But overall, it was a good race. I mean, we changed our strategy like 8 different times throughout the whole race, just with all those cautions, and I think we would have came out on top of all of them, but we just kept having those really poorly timed cautions. So, it sucks, but we put a good effort on, came 1 spot short, and it was still a good race nonetheless.
So hindsight being 2020, as it always is, now you look back at where you pitted and where Jaden didn't. Do you think if you'd have made that same call, you'd be in his spot, or do you think that just he did it better, or what's your takeaway from that moment?
Yeah, for sure. Knowing it now, I definitely would have pitted when he pitted, but I would have never done it. I just would have never even considered pitting. It was like 45 laps to go. You can only make 38 on a tank of gas full pushing. So if that race goes green, they don't make it to the end. That's right. That's what our strategy was there. We pit when we could make it to the end, and we thought we were going to be good. If that race went green, they would have ran out, and we would have been good. But just didn't go that way. Had a whole lot of cautions there at the end. Kind of got stuck behind some other people. During those restarts, it's hard to pass, especially even farther back in dirty air. But, yeah.
So we talked earlier in the broadcast about you kind of being the Iron Man. You've already won a Brickyard 400 this week. I think that it kind of goes, I don't want it to be understated. You've already won one. You came that close to winning a second one. There, I believe, are 4 more runnings this weekend of the Brickyard 400. Are you down for more, or is 800 miles about as much as you want to do here?
I would be, to be honest, but we are going racing this weekend up in Connecticut, so I do actually have to be up in about 4.5 hours to go to said Connecticut. But yeah, it was a wild night. I actually just got internet access 30 minutes before this race. Did not have iRacing installed. I didn't have anything installed. It's a brand new computer. The other one is destroyed. I don't know. Something internally went bad on it, but yeah, we scrambled trying to get everything set up here in 30 minutes. I did not have any of my settings right to where I wanted, but we were able to get used to it over the long race. So
fair enough.
Definitely a wild one.
I'm not sure if I had more questions, but now knowing you have to be up in 4 hours, I don't have any more questions. Please go get some sleep. Have a great, fun weekend of racing in Connecticut, and hopefully we'll talk to you in future special events.
Thank you.
All right, that is Sean Conklin. Well, Evan, that right there was a storm of circumstances. Had no internet access to the new house, had to get a new computer, had to get iRacing installed, and somehow he still comes out P2 in a Brickyard 400.
What a result, a first and a second in one of the tougher events to be able to make it through on the iRacing special events calendar when you talk about the ovals. And 2 points. Number one is, we're done here tonight at Indianapolis. There are still opportunities. If you want to compete in this iRacing Brickyard 400, there are still plenty of open and fixed setup time slots available all throughout the weekend. Highly encourage you to participate in them over the course of the week. But as far as our special coverage here on the iRacing Esports Network, Derek, we don't have to look that far ahead. The Knoxville Nationals in a week's time will be the next one up in Portimao, Crandon. We talk about the IMS here. The 6-hour road race here at Indianapolis will kick off September. And if you're a fan of these NASCAR special events, mid-September, we'll be going night racing again at Bristol.
Yeah, excited to see all of it and all the others coming up. The Bathurst 1000, Petite Le Mans, the Martinsville MX 500. That was a blast last year. It's going to be a great one. So many, many special events to get involved in throughout the season, on top of all the numerous official races you can do on iRacing. Evan, it's been a pleasure as always. A fun night, a great night of action, and an exciting finish in a special event.
And we hope that you join us the next time we do it. But until then, that's going to be it for us here tonight from Speedway, Indiana. On behalf of our entire team at iRacing, RaceSpot TV, and for your broadcast crew tonight, for our producer, Hugo Luis downstairs, for Derek Watson, and myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to say thanks for tuning in, and congratulations to Jaden Hopp, who is an iRacing Brickyard 400 champion.